Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Prehistoric Survival. Start with a stone cave. Chapter 21. Zhou Yi's location is a cliff. Below is a huge valley. The depth of the valley is at least a few hundred meters deep, and the length is at least close to several kilometers from Zhou Yi's visual inspection. In such a huge valley, almost covered with pythons. Countless pythons are entangled with each other, climbing in and out of countless large and small caves on the cliffs of the valley. At the bottom of the canyon, pythons appear in groups. Among them are some particularly large ancient titanoboa. A titanoboa is nearly 20 meters long, and its body is more than 1 meter thick. With such an exaggerated size, it would not be difficult to swallow a dinosaur. Zhou Yi even found the head of a titan python poking out of the snake hole not far from him. Judging from the size of its head, the length of this titanoboa is definitely over 20 meters. If he was accidentally discovered, it would be a matter of opening his mouth to be swallowed by this giant python. Zhou Yi can probably guess it. With the capacity of this canyon, it is several hundred meters high, hundreds of meters wide, and several kilometers long. Such a huge snake nest can accommodate no less than a few million pythons. What's more, is there only one such nest, or are there several? It's unknown. If all the pythons here break out, it will be a terrible disaster of medium-sized or larger pythons. The entire island will be overrun by pythons. Of the thousands of players on the island, how many will survive in the end? Zhou Yi used the system's camera function and took a photo of the entire huge canyon. When he goes back, he plans to send this photo to the regional channel. This disaster concerns everyone in their 851 district. Zhou Yi didn't want to see the whole island covered with pythons. Zhou Yi didn't dare to stay here any longer. If he caught the attention of the Titan python, he would be doomed. When he was preparing to evacuate, Zhou Yi paid special attention to the cliffs of the canyon below. I found that these cliffs were sticky and slippery, and when pythons swam over them, they would make a slight, swishing sound. Zhou Yi couldn't help but wonder, what's going on? He looked carefully and found an ancient tree that he couldn't name growing everywhere on the cliff. These ancient trees take root deep in the cliffs. A thick layer of shiny resin will flow from the branches. These resins stick to the cliff and are smeared everywhere on the cliff. Zhou Yi suddenly thought of a way. These resins are easy to ignite. Usually the tip of charcoal is smeared with resin and can be used as a torch. The fire can burn for a long time. What would happen if a fire was set here? As soon as this idea came up, Zhou Yi couldn't hold it back. So he took out the flint he carried with him. Break off a branch, rub it twice with a flint and steel, and then throw the burned branch onto the canyon cliff below. How many can be burned to death? Zhou Yi didn't care about the rest. Just as he was about to evacuate, Zhou Yi suddenly realized that something was wrong. Because of his behavior of throwing branches, the titanoboa wandering next to him discovered him. A snake head as big as a room poked towards him, spitting a snake message from its mouth, and a pair of fierce vertical pupils locked tightly on the target. Zhou Yi also didn't expect that because of his careless behavior, he would attract the attention of this big guy. This is terrible. However, he can still remain calm in critical moments. There is also a city return scroll in his dimensional backpack. As a last resort, he can use the scroll to return to the city urgently. Now that he had been exposed, Zhou Yi immediately took off the horn bow from his back. Open your bow and knock an arrow, and an arrow will fly out. Because the arrow was shot in a hurry, the angle of the arrow was off. Zhou Yi wanted to shoot the Titan python in the eye with an arrow, but it hit the corner of the eye instead. A flower of blood burst out. Titanoboa immediately rioted, its huge body curled up, and it roared in pain. Zhou Yi finally saw its full picture clearly. With its body coiled up, this titanoboa is 6 stories tall, and its length is immeasurable. This kind of terrifying monster is simply not something he can deal with at this stage. After shooting an arrow, Zhou Yi had already torn open the scroll to return to the city. At this time, due to the titanoboa's uprising, the snakes in the valley below caused a commotion. In the primeval forest, countless giant pythons and forest anacondas began to move and gather here. Swish, swish, swish. They climbed up along the trunks of these giant trees and gathered quickly. After Zhou Yi activated the scroll to return to the city, a blue halo of light automatically appeared in front of him. Zhou Yi did not hesitate and immediately jumped into the circle of light. If you leave a step too late, you might be left behind immediately. After Zhou Yi emerged from the aperture, he found that he had returned to the familiar underground stone chamber. After returning to the stone room, the first thing Zhou Yi did was to move immediately. Although he set a fire before leaving, but he didn't know how many snakes would be burned to death in the end. Based on the number of pythons in that canyon, if there was a collective riot, it would only take 20 minutes for the snakes to swim from their nest to him. His base will bear the brunt and be directly overwhelmed by countless giant pythons. Although his stone chamber is still relatively strong, after seeing the terrifying Titanoboa, he was not sure that he would be able to withstand the opponent's impact. Moreover, it was just a Titanoboa. Titanoboa ranges in size from large to small. If a normal Titanoboa body is 20 meters, then it is possible that the largest Titanoboa could be over 50 meters long. If it stood upright, it would be 17 stories high. In front of such a giant, human power is pitifully small. Therefore, Zhou Yi decided to move directly. Leaving is the best option to escape danger. In the regional forum, a terrible news spread like a whirlwind. Is there going to be a python disaster? My cave doesn't even have a door, so I'm just kidding. Hiss, this photo makes my scalp tingle. How many snakes are there? It's probably at least a few million pythons. We were born on a snake island. Brothers, a python disaster is about to break out. Is there anything we need to pay attention to? Be sure to prepare the coffin in advance, lay it in, and fill it with soil. There is nothing else to pay attention to. This is still an island. You can't even escape. Jump into the sea and swim to the mainland on the other side. If you dare to jump into the sea, you have the guts. The Mosasaurus is waiting for you to jump in the sea. Then what should we do? Can we just wait and feed the snake? It is useful to reinforce the stone door. Maybe the python sees you hiding in the stone door and the door is too hard, so they don't want to put in so much effort to eat food that is not even enough to fit between their teeth. Thank you. I'll go back and reinforce the stone door as soon as possible. Also, sprinkle lavender on the door. Snakes hate the smell. Thank you to the big brother upstairs for your help. You're welcome, I sell lavender here. If you want lavender, please chat privately. I'll wipe it. What you should really thank is Zhou Yi, who risked his life and death to take this photo and tell us about the outbreak of the python disaster in advance. Thank you. I wish good people will always be rewarded. Thanks +1. Moved +10,086. Quote. After Zhou Yi released the news about the python disaster on the regional channel, the entire regional channel went crazy. Everyone is thinking about how to deal with the python, and the price of shimon has been sky high. Everyone started buying lavender, stones. At the same time, they stocked up on food to prepare for the python disaster. However, it was originally difficult for some people to survive. At this time, I heard the news about the python disaster again, which immediately made things worse. For a time, regional channels were blaming the Pyro Alliance and the Alliance of Hope for not speaking out or even saying a word when this kind of disaster strikes. Instead, Zhou Yi went deep into the virgin forest alone. I informed everyone in advance to give everyone a wake-up call. Li Yan and Wang Ming were rushed to death on the regional channel. Joining the alliance is useless. Not as useful as a reminder from a passerby. Zhou Yi turned a deaf ear to the news on the regional channel. He just wanted to move immediately. Zhou Yi first found the base crystal stone, which every player has after the base is upgraded to level 2. With this stone, you can immediately upgrade the new address you find into a secondary base. Zhou Yi has a dimensional backpack that can carry everything in the crypt. From bed, soil, to meat, stone, wood. Even the toilet can be put into the dimensional backpack and taken away at once. But it cannot contain living things. And there are only 10 grids, so there are too many things that need to be taken away in batches. Zhou Yi put on his dimensional backpack and took away part of it first. Patting the little triceratops that was still nibbling on the lettuce, he said, "Mistress, we are moving today. Come with me." The mistress was chewing lettuce. I don't know if I understand or not, but I seem to be a little nostalgic for this place, lying on the ground unwilling to leave. Zhou Yi picked up the mistress and, such a big little triceratops weighs more than 100 kilograms. Zhou Yiping lifted over 500 kilograms and picked him up easily. Regardless of the mistress's protest, she put it under her arm and walked out the door. Zhou Yi spread out the map. Checked the terrain. The source of the python outbreak is in the virgin forest. Since we want to avoid the python disaster, it is more advantageous to run farther away. The farthest place from the virgin forest happens to be on the coast closest to the mainland. Zhou Yi closed the map and decided to move there. Take the little triceratops with you and follow the map all the way. Bypassing some plain areas that seem dangerous and infested by wild beasts. We walked about 7 or 8 kilometers through mountains and rivers. Finally arrived at the coast. This place is already 8 kilometers away from the virgin forest where the python disaster originated. Theoretically speaking, it should be difficult for the python disaster to affect this place. Zhou Yi decided to move here and looked ahead. All you can see is the sea, with vast expanse of blue waves. About a few hundred meters away. It's a piece of land. It is this short distance of a few hundred meters that completely separates the island from the mainland, forming a natural chasm. It's actually safer here, Zhou Yi murmured to himself, because there is a Gobi desert nearby. Without grass and food, almost no wild animals survive here. Zhou Yi thinks this terrain is perfect. As soon as this idea came into my mind. Looking up, he saw a group of pterosaurs flying in the sky with their wings spread out in the distance. It makes a long and loud chirping sound. No, pterosaurs are a threat. Not long after Zhou Yigang was happy, he found that the pterosaur had become his biggest enemy. It seems that the base still needs to be turned into a crypt to prevent pterosaur attacks. After Zhou Yi walked around the area, he picked out a high protruding stone cliff. This stone cliff faces the sea, and the top of the stone cliff is about 20 meters high from the sea. Moreover, there is a reef on the sea under the stone cliff. Large marine beasts cannot swim over, thus avoiding attacks by mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, etc. Judging from the location, it's absolutely safe. Moreover, there is a natural stone cave about 2 meters below this stone cliff. The cave is just big enough for him to live in. Moreover, if you think the cave is too small, you can continue digging inside to expand it. Zhou Yi can only use 2 words to evaluate, perfect. Zhou Yi tied a hemp rope on the top of the stone cliff, held Xiaosan on the swing, and swung into the cave. I cleaned up several piles of suspected pterosaur feces in the cave. Then spread some lavender. After dispersing the odor, Zhou Yi took out the base crystal. A secondary base crypt was built here. The crypt was quickly completed, and it was just big enough to be divided into 3 rooms as before. It's a pity that the yard is gone. Because there is no direct access to the ground here, unless Zhou Yi digs another passage to the ground. Such a large amount of work cannot be completed by Zhou Yi alone. However, Zhou Yi also has a way. He used a pickaxe to carve out a window near the stone door. This will allow the sun to shine in, by the window. Just use a fence to enclose a small courtyard of about 20 square meters. You can also grow vegetables and fruits. After everything was sorted, Zhou Yi assigned Xiaosan the first task. Don't let him move around here, guard your home and wait for him to come back soon. The mistress stood at the entrance of the air-leaking hole. Looking at Zhou Yi, his big round head shook, as if he was not very willing. Zhou Yi threw down a few lettuces. After seeing the lettuce, the mistress immediately rushed over and pushed him with her head, telling him to leave quickly. I think you will sell it to me in the future just for food. Zhou Yi laughed and cursed. I patted its head and climbed up on the hemp rope. The mistress finished the lettuce in a few bites and raised her head to look at it. Zhou Yi has left, and it is the only beast left here. The mistress ran to the cave where the wind was leaking. The injured right leg still hurts a little. Blowing in the sea breeze, looking at the mainland on the other side. A few tears fell down in his pupils. It knows that its mother went there. Xiaosan stood by the cave and let out a low roar at the mainland that was close in front of him and far away in the horizon. The roar carried far across the sea. Tired of shouting, the mistress stood at the entrance of the cave, staring at the other shore in the distance. In the sea breeze, there was a faint echo. The mistress was so excited that she jumped up on the spot. No matter the wound was open, it heard its mother calling to it. When Zhou Yi returned to the cave with a backpack and a pheasant in his arms, I found Xiaosun lying on the ground at the entrance of the cave and asleep. As soon as Zhou Yi appeared, Xiaosun immediately became alarmed and woke up when she heard the noise. When he found out that the person coming was Zhou Yi, he immediately lifted his trouser legs. Biting his clothes, he kept pulling him out. While pulling, he let out an excited growl. Zhou Yi didn't understand what the mistress was doing at first. Later he understood. Xiaosun asked herself to take it to find her mother. This is the telepathy between being an animal tamer and taming animals. In short, Zhou Yi understood it. Zhou Yi saw Xiaosun so excited. Somewhat unbearably, he pointed to the sea outside and said, "Xiaosun, look, it's a sea. I can't take you there." Roar, ho ho. Little San was so anxious that he jumped up and down. The urge to see his mother kept growing in his heart. It was very impatient and started hitting the wall with its horns. Zhou Yi threw a dozen lettuces at its feet. The mistress doesn't care. "I want to see my mother." Zhou Yi patted its head and said, "When you grow up, I will take you to see your mother." The irritable mistress finally stopped and blinked her big brown eyes. I seem to understand. Then he lay down and started chewing lettuce leaves wildly. I ate until I was full, and then ran to drink a liter of spring water. I want to grow up quickly. Good to see my mother. After eating and drinking, the mistress blinked a few times. Started to sleep on the floor again. When Zhou Yi saw this scene, he felt slightly moved in his heart. Humans are not grass and trees, how can they be ruthless? I patted the mistress, big sleeping head. "Don't worry, I will definitely take you there when you grow up." After a lot of fuss, it was already evening. Zhou Yi looked at the sunset on the horizon. The scenery here is beautiful and full of the beauty of nature. Although pterosaurs are scary, looking at them spreading their wings and soaring in the sunset. It's like a picture scroll, full of historical style. Zhou Yi didn't appreciate it for long. Then the stone door was installed and the entrance of the cave was completely sealed. Only narrow grilled windows were left next to the door. This kind of window is very narrow, and even larger birds cannot fly in. After cutting out the window, spread 20 pounds of excellent grade soil in the vegetable garden by the window. After doing this, Zhou Yi has completely completed the move. However, he couldn't transplant the berry forest as well. I can only think of a solution later. Zhou Yi lay down on the bed and turned on the regional channel to see the news about the python disaster. Many people in Area 851 are increasingly worried about the upcoming python disaster. Established the Tinder Alliance and the two founders of the Hope Alliance, Li Yan and Wang Ming, after suffering some crazy online abuse from people on the regional channel, couldn't stand the pressure. This group of people will come to an end one after another and personally led a group of people to set off and enter the virgin forest. Prepare to find out the scale of the python disaster. Currently, these two major alliances are in the preparation stage. Li Yan held up the banner of exploring the python disaster. He took the opportunity to gather a group of people to join his fire alliance again. I saw this guy recruiting people everywhere in the channel again. Zhou Yi couldn't help but curse that this person was so shameless. At this time, you can try your best to trick others into joining, but some people actually respond. Zhou Yi could only watch as he took advantage. At this time, the chat window flashed up, and Zhang Pengfei sent a message. "Benefactor, I want to investigate the source of the python disaster." Seeing Zhang Pengfei's news, Zhou Yi had already guessed what he was thinking. He plans to join the alliance and act with the people of the alliance. "Zhou Yi, you want to join the alliance?" Zhang Pengfei sent a positive message. "Well, I didn't have a good impression of them at first, but this time they are going to explore the python disaster and finally did some personnel work. I have made up my mind to go with them." Zhou Yi, "Well, if you want to join the alliance, I won't stop you, but the members behind these alliances are planning to let the people below die and enjoy the benefits themselves. If you go, you must be careful and don't be used in vain." Quote. Zhang Pengfei, "I know it well, benefactor, don't worry, if they dare to do this, I will definitely unite with everyone and rebel against his bullshit alliance first." This Zhang Pengfei is quite upright. Zhou Yi, "Okay, take care of yourself." Zhang Pengfei, "Benefactor, I have one more thing to ask you." Zhou Yi, "What's the matter?" Zhang Pengfei, "I don't know if I can come back this time. If something happens to me, I will ask you to take care of my sister Xiaoyu. Photo uploaded by Zheng Pengfei. In the photo, Zheng Xiaoyu is sitting on a stool, cooking the pot seriously. Something is boiling in the pot, and the aroma keeps wafting, giving me the feeling of being a helpful wife. Xiaoyu's profile is also very peaceful, and her temperament is very quiet. Zhou Yi, I always feel that there is something in Zheng Pengfei's words. Zhou Yi, why are you saying these depressing words? You still owe me a debt of gratitude that you haven't repaid. Don't let me die easily. Zheng Pengfei, haha, okay, then I won't disturb you, benefactor. Zheng Pengfei closed the chat window. Zhou Yi looked at the wall in a daze for a while. He has to go out to do things all day long, so it would be nice to have a woman at home to help with housework. Zhou Yi immediately shook the thoughts out of his mind. What am I thinking about? Is now the time to consider this kind of question? He is only 16 years old. Zhou Yi got rid of all the unrealistic thoughts in his head and went to sleep first. Zhou Yi came to the 9th day of the prehistoric world. System prompt. Today's temperature is 8 to 15 degrees, be careful of wild beasts. As the cold wave ends, the temperature on the island gradually returns to normal. After Zhou Yi got up from bed, he first prepared some food for himself. Heat up oil in a pan, add some meat, sprinkle some chili pepper, and add sliced sweet potatoes and stir fry. Crack the eggs on the stone, put them on a plate, eat the raw eggs directly, and drink some spring water. Then eat all the sweet potato slices. After Zhou Yi was full, the mistress was already jumping up and down on the side to express that she wanted to eat. Zhou Yi prepared 2 pounds of lettuce and 10 pounds of grass leaves for it. While Xiao San was chewing lettuce leaves, Zhou Yi poured the 3 prepared potions, the cell division potion, the primary strength potion, and the primary agility potion into the spring water and mixed them evenly. The mistress finished eating the vegetable leaves and drank all the spring water. After drinking these potions, Xiao San's growth rate will increase much faster. Zheng Pengfei joined the Tinder Alliance. With Zheng Pengfei joining, Zhou Yi can keep track of the trends on the front line at any time. Pushing open the stone door, the breath of the sea hits your face. Feeling the moist water vapor in the air, Zhou Yi glanced at his feet. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a cliff more than 10 meters high, with a reef at the bottom. It can be said that opening the door leads to an abyss. But Zhou Yi felt that this place was very safe. He glanced down. I found that a reef that was covered by seawater yesterday was completely exposed at this time, leaving only a bare reef. What's going on? Zhou Yi was full of doubts. Could it be that the law of ebb and flow also followed here? Zhou Yi thought about it, and he remembered that one time he went out to urinate at night, and he seemed to have indeed discovered the moon in the sky. This makes sense. It turns out there are tides here too. Like Earth, there are high and low tides. Yesterday it was supposed to be the high tide, and the seawater submerged the rocks. The tide went out this morning and the rocks were exposed. An idea suddenly popped into Zhou Yi's mind. Wouldn't he be able to catch the sea? Go catch the sea at low tide. Low tide is the best time to catch the sea. Zhou Yi couldn't help but feel excited and looked towards the shore below. At this time, bursts of silver light swayed on the beach, which was the light reflected from the smooth scales of fish and shrimp jumping on the beach. In the prehistoric sea, fish and shrimps were incredibly large. Zhou Yi made a visual inspection and saw that a jumping fish was more than half a meter long, and a shrimp could be as big as a washbasin. The corner of Zhou Yi's mouth was harder to suppress than axe. I didn't expect that after moving, I would get an unexpected surprise. Don't all the fish and shrimps on this beach belong to you? Zhou Yi got excited and quickly tied a hemp rope, tied it to the edge of the stone door, and fastened it. Relying on his super strong arm strength, he grasped the hemp rope and moved down the cliff. When Zhou Yi jumped down, he also brought a large fishing net to hold fish and shrimps. There are many blue sea fish on the coast. There are also all kinds of weird shrimps and crabs. Zhou Yi didn't know anyone, jumping up and down on the beach. Zhou Yi picked them all back up in the fishing net. Some shrimps are quite powerful. 2 big shrimps opened their claws, looking at them with eager eyes. Zhou Yi grabbed him from behind, pulled him up with his shell and body, and threw him into the fishing net, jumping around. Zhou Yi was very happy to see it. How can these big fish and shrimps compare to the small fish and shrimps on Earth? This is called real sea fish and shrimp. Zhou Yi picked up a big fish, which was thicker than his arm and nearly as long as an arm. The weight is estimated to be at least 10 kilograms. This is a large prehistoric fish. I really envy those fishing guys. Zhou Yi used a fishing net to load some fish and shrimp, which were estimated to weigh 100 kilograms. I immediately called the World Channel, took a photo, and sold it directly. 100 pounds of prehistoric sea fish and shrimps. If you want to taste the seafood, you can exchange it for blood source essence. Because Zhou Yi could not go to the berry forest for the time being, he had no source of wealth. If you want to feed mistress, a large amount of blood source essence must be used as raw material. Zhou Yi thought of using these sea fish and shrimps in exchange for blood source essence. The fish and shrimp in his hand are just ordinary grade meat. According to the estimated value, it cannot be exchanged for a higher level material like blood source essence. But these things are rare and rare seafood. Zhou Yi doesn't believe that anyone dares to go into the sea to catch fish. This is sold to those rich players who have developed relatively well. They don't care about this small loss and just want to have a taste of seafood. For example, king crabs on Earth are expensive because they are rare. The same is true for Zhou Yi's sea fish and shrimps. It's rare, so it's expensive. In the World Channel. As soon as Zhou Yi uploaded the photo of fish and shrimp, it immediately aroused a heated discussion. Such a fat sea fish must taste good, give me one first. They sell it at a minimum of 100 kilograms. Can I give it to you by the piece? This prehistoric sea fish looks really fat. It won't be poisonous, right? What's wrong with being poisonous? Labor and management are willing to be the first to eat crabs. They eat game on land every day, and their mouths get sores from eating it. I have to taste the taste of fish today. This shrimp is so big, one of its claws and legs is enough for me to eat. Seller, I have sent you a private message. I will exchange it for 10 primary blood source essences. Please reply quickly. I'll give you 20 copies of primary blood source essence. How about selling me this 100 kilograms of seafood? Brothers, stay back a little. I am willing to give you 3 copies of intermediate blood source essence. Give me the overseas goods. Zhou Yi took a look. Good guy. Someone wants to produce 3 copies of intermediate bloodborne essence, which can only be revealed by hunting a short-faced bear. Zhou Yi is not in a hurry to trade now. He will wait for them to stir up the heat. At the same time, continue to go to the shore to catch fish and shrimp. When he caught a fishing net full of big fish, prawns and sea crabs. Someone on the World Channel has already offered 6 copies of intermediate blood essence in exchange for his 100 kilograms of seafood. This transaction price was completely beyond Zhou Yi's expectations. It seems that no matter where you are, the rich have the last laugh. Zhou Yi traded 100 kilograms of marine goods to the big boss who offered 6x intermediate blood source essence. When other players saw that 100 kilograms of fish and shrimps had been bought, they sighed and looked downcast. The boss got 100 kilograms of prehistoric seafood and was just feeling complacent. But suddenly he discovered that Zhou Yi took out another 100 kilograms of sea goods for trading in the blink of an eye. The boss's face turned green. Why does this guy still have some stock? The other players cheered collectively and joined in the fight one after another. Zhou Yi picked up fish and shrimps while selling seafood, and finally sold 1,000 kilograms of fish, shrimps and crabs. Earned 32 intermediate blood essences and 380 primary blood essences. This trip to the sea is so worth it. The prehistoric seafood was indeed quite filling. When Zhou Yi was picking up fish and shrimps on the coast, suddenly he stopped on the spot and looked at an extremely weird-looking insect on the shore. This bug is about 70 centimeters long. There is a saddle on the head, and a pair of small eyeballs are arranged on both sides. The back shell is divided into 3 columns vertically, namely the chest cavity and the neatly arranged claws on both sides. At this time, the claws on both sides of its chest are paddling on the beach to help its body move forward. Zhou Yi has already recognized it. Isn't this the trilobite known as the ancestor of all prehistoric creatures? The ancestors of human beings who are separated by countless generations may have been this thing. Zhou Yi observed the trilobites and felt very novel. The origin of trilobites can be traced back to the Cambrian period, before the first mass extinction of species on Earth. Born hundreds of millions of years before humans. Zhou Yi saw living trilobites instead of fossils, and he felt a bit strange in his heart. Wonder what trilobites taste like. It looks like it should be quite crispy. It might taste better if fried. Zhou Yi was not polite, pinched the back of this prehistoric ancestor with his hand, and picked up the trilobite. The trilobite immediately began to struggle. The densely packed claws waved up and down, looking like they were baring their teeth and claws. But it couldn't catch Zhou Yi. All these crustacean reptiles have a characteristic. Once you hold its back, they can only be slaughtered. Zhou Yi threw the trilobites into the big fishing net, which was today's unexpected harvest. Then another species of sea crab was discovered, with a pair of pincers larger than a human head. Holding the pair of pliers high, the whole body looks black, it is quite imposing. Zhou Yi tried it several times and found that this product responded very quickly. I spun it around a few times and still couldn't catch its back. I almost got injured by its big pliers, so I had to give up. This was the first time Zhou Yi failed to catch overseas goods. But he also had a countermeasure in his mind. Next time he would come down with a guy with a handle to deal with it. See how majestic it can be. Zhou Yi gave it a name. Would like to call it Big Black Crab. After calculating today's harvest, I found that there were over 1,500 kilograms of various fish, shrimps and crabs. A catch of 1.5 tons, even if sold as ordinary seafood on Earth, can be sold for hundreds of thousands of RMB. This harvest has been considerable. Zhou Yi grabbed the big fishing net and the hemp rope with one hand and climbed all the way back to the cave. Zhou Yi sold almost all the fish, shrimps and crabs, leaving only a small part for himself. It's enough to try these seafoods. It cannot enhance one's physical fitness like fine-grade beast meat. Zhou Yi usually eats 3 meals a day, mainly high-quality animal meat, supplemented by vegetables, berries and spring water. He used the remaining 500 kilograms of sea goods in exchange for a return scroll. This is a life-saving tool and must be replenished at any time when it is used up. In addition, Zhou Yi still lacks a high-quality stone gate. Although the current location is very good, there is no need to worry about wild beasts drilling through the door. But you never go too far wrong. Today at noon, he planned to open the pot and try out what fried trilobites would taste like. Give yourself a little break. Zhou Yi first used a dagger to cut the trilobite into 8 pieces. The sharp dagger, kakaka. In just a few strokes, the trilobite was cut into more than a dozen sections. Then remove the head and tail. The paws, which had no nutrition, were also gone. Only leave the most meaty part in the center. Then put it in the oil pan and start frying directly. In the large oil pan that was gurgling with oil and foam, trilobites were floating up and down. Zhou Yi put the lid on the pot. Wait 20 minutes. Then open the lid and take a look. The shell of the trilobite has been fried until it is shiny and looks very crispy. Sure enough, no matter how awesome the prehistoric creature is, in the eyes of the Chinese people, no one can escape the fate of being in the pot in the end. Zhou Yi took the fried crispy trilobites out of the pot and put them on a plate. Sprinkle a handful of salt on it, wrap it with lettuce leaves, and take a bite. Even the juice is overflowing. Zhou Yi smacked his lips and tasted. There is quite a lot of meat and it feels quite nutritious. If he had to describe the taste, it tasted like geoduck. Zhou Yi nodded repeatedly after eating, his mouth full of oil. It seems that he doesn't have to worry about not being able to sell his seafood in the future. Inferred from this trilobite, prehistoric fish and prehistoric shrimp should both taste good. At least the meat is plump and delicious. The little triceratops lay aside and watched Zhou Yi eating very happily, and began to get greedy. He bit his trousers with his teeth and kept tugging. Zhou Yi threw a handful of vegetable leaves and lettuce to it. This is your thing. The mistress was so happy that she hugged the lettuce and ate it. Zhou Yi looked at it and shook his head. It's a pity that you don't eat meat. Otherwise, how could you experience the fun of omnivorous animals? After finishing the meal, Zhou Yi felt that this reef had great potential. From now on, the harvest from catching the sea every day can provide him with a lot of wealth. It must be managed well. Zhou Yi bought fishing net making scroll from the World Channel. Fish and shrimps in the sea are relatively strong and can easily break free. Like the big black crab I encountered today, you can cut the net rope with just one pair of pliers. Special fishing nets must be woven from thickened hemp rope. Only in this way can these sea fish be caught in the net. Zhou Yi spent a day making 3 special large fishing nets. In the evening, carry these fishing nets and go down the cliff again. On the coast, a bunch of rocks protruding out of the sea stood on the shore like a messy stone forest. These reefs are only exposed during low tide and are completely submerged under the sea during high tide. At low tide, the reefs will also trap some fish and shrimps and swim back to the sea. But there are high and low reefs, and fish are not stupid. If they are blocked by a tall reef, they will swim back from the short reef. Zhou Yi lowered the fishing net between the crevices of these rocks. The fishing nets and rocks together form an artificial barrier. Every time the tide goes out, more fish can be caught. Zhou Yi first lowered all 2 large fishing nets. He took out the 3rd fishing net, ran to an area with slightly deeper water, and circled a separate pond. The end of the net was tied to a rock pillar that looked very solid. In this way, when the tide goes out tomorrow, he will come back and close the net. Another rich catch. After doing this, Zhou Yi looked at the sky. The sunset on the other side has already set, and the sunset glow dyes the entire sky. The sea water on the shore has a rising trend. Zhou Yi couldn't stay here any longer and immediately climbed up along the hemp rope. After returning to the cave, Zhou Yi enjoyed another sumptuous seafood dinner for dinner. Tomorrow morning, we can check the catch again. It's really nice to have this feeling of looking forward to the next day every day. Zhou Yi continued to test his body in the cave at night. In the last test, he lifted 10 stone blocks in a row. This time he tried it. 11 easily. 12, feeling a little strenuous. But I can barely lift it. After lifting 12 stone blocks and holding on for 10 seconds, Zhou Yi suddenly lost his strength, lying on the ground breathing heavily. Lift 600 pounds flat. One punch punched out about 1,800 kilograms. The power of this punch is close to 1 ton. Zhou Yi looked at his hands and felt an incredible feeling. I don't believe that I can compete with prehistoric beasts such as saber-toothed tigers and short-faced bears with just 1 slap. Zhou Yi felt that it was time for him to get rid of this fear. Prejudice is a big mountain in people's hearts. Subconsciously, humans do not dare to fight for their lives against tigers and bears. Not to mention risking your life, it would be considered brave if you don't pee your pants on the spot because you see it. I don't even have the guts to touch it. Zhou Yi felt that he should be able to try it now. Besides, he's not shirtless, he has handles on his hands. The next time he sees tigers or bears in the forest, never turn around and run away. No matter what, I have to go up and touch him. Give these beasts a try. Zhou Yi then did a speed test. The speed of 100 meters is about 8 seconds. The number of round-trip jumps per second is 3.5 times. A complete humanoid monster. Before Zhou Yi went to bed at night, he sent a message to Zheng Pengfei. Ask him about his time in the Pyro League. Zheng Pengfei is now considered an acquaintance of his, so Zhou Yi basically doesn't need to be wary of him and can talk openly about anything. Zheng Pengfei told him that Li Yan established a python killing team. Each member of the python killing team is equipped with at least 1 sophisticated dagger. It is guaranteed to cut off the head of a python with 1 knife. Zheng Pengfei also joined the python killing team. Zheng Pengfei still doesn't know what Li Yan's purpose is, and he is currently investigating it secretly. Zhou Yi frowned. He didn't think Li Yan was so kind and dedicating himself to others. Apart from anything else, building a sophisticated weapon for each member of the python killing team is definitely a big expense. Zhou Yi is far from having such financial resources. He must have done this for some reason. Zhou Yi asked Zheng Pengfei to be careful and be careful not to fall into Li Yan's trap. Zheng Pengfei replied, yeah. Then the chat ended. The next day, before Zhou Yi woke up, he was woken up by the mistress beside him. The mistress seemed to be hungry again. She kept shaking the bed with her head all morning, waking up Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi looked at the hungry mistress who roared. He couldn't help but wonder, he fed the mistress the same amount last night as the day before yesterday, how could she be hungry? Seeing that Xiao San's figure was slightly stronger, Zhou Yi probably figured it out. Xiaosan, who took the cell division drug, grew faster than the ordinary triceratops. It lasts for 1 day, which is equivalent to 10 days for others. As your body grows, your appetite will naturally increase. Zhou Yi remembered that when he first met Xiaosun, he was only as big as a puppy, but now he is almost as big as a pig. The sturdy body is round and looks quite stocky and strong. Triceratops grew up very quickly. From a baby, he grew into a behemoth 8 or 9 meters long. But it took 7 or 8 years. Zhou Yi gave it another cell division drug, which is estimated to last about 10 months. It can grow to the size of an adult Triceratops. The body changes day by day. No joke. Zhou Yi patted the mistress on the head and immediately arranged food for it. 5 pounds of lettuce leaves. 20 pounds of fern leaves. 1 liter of spring water. This is just breakfast, at the end of the day. The mistress has to eat 80 pounds of grass. After Zhou Yi put the potion in the spring water, he started to work on his meal. Today is the same as usual. Eggs, berries, and a steak fried. Sprinkle salt on the surface of the steak and drizzle some sesame seeds. Perfect. After a full meal and drink, Zhou Yi was ready to climb down on the hemp rope to see today's catch. After the mistress was full, she was so excited that she jumped up and down. Ask Zhou Yi to take it out for a ride. Zhou Yi patted its head and rejected it. You are still young and it is dangerous outside. I will take you out when you grow up. The mistress still has injuries on her legs. The mistress, who is now in her infancy, will be a hot mess when she goes out. They will definitely be targeted by those carnivorous beasts. In their eyes, the Triceratops at this period was the most delicious piece of fat. Anyone can bully it twice. As it grows older, it becomes more dangerous as it enters adolescence. When Xiaosun gets bigger, he will be about the same size as a tiger. Zhou Yi can almost take it out hunting. Zhou Yi pushed open the door of the cave and hung down to the coast along the hemp rope. He was still on the hemp rope, and Zhou Yi's mouth was smiling again. On the coast, after the tide recedes, another pile of fish and shrimps are jumping on the shore. The bright scales shine with silver light, which is very dazzling. Zhou Yi took a look and saw that there were more fish and shrimps jumping on the coast than yesterday. Today's harvest must be better than yesterday. Zhou Yi jumped to the shore along the hemp rope and looked at the jumping fish and shrimps. It's time to collect the fishing nets that were put out yesterday. At this time, because Zhou Yi came down earlier today than yesterday, the tide has not completely receded. There are many more fish and shrimps in the sea than on the shore. Many fish and shrimps are stuck in the gaps between reefs and fishing nets. Zhou Yi ran over and took a look. There were indeed a lot of fish in the first fishing net. They are all struggling to jump. Zhou Yi estimated that the fish caught in this first fishing net was equivalent to yesterday's harvest. This is the benefit of casting a fishing net. When Zhou Yi looked at the second fishing net, he was immediately angry and dumbfounded on the spot. I saw a big hole in the center of the second fishing net, and most of the fish and shrimp escaped from the hole. All this is thanks to a huge strange insect. This thing looks like a scorpion, with a long and flat body. The carapace on its back is a bit like a trilobite, with 2 huge pincers nearly 1 meter long extending from its head. There are many protruding spikes from the mouth to the wall of the forceps, which look hideous. Its tail is not cocked like a scorpion's, but extends flat and backward. At this time, it was using its pair of large pliers to cut off the fishing net that trapped it. You must know that this fishing net is tied with thick hemp rope specially made by Zhou Yi. Ordinary prehistoric sea fish have no strength to break free. This shows how powerful it is. Zhou Yi has already recognized the strange insect. This thing is also very famous. Horseshoe crab. During the Ordovician period, it was also a dominant player in the ocean. According to Prehistoric Creatures, the horseshoe crab was born in the Ordovician period 420 million years ago. It is 3 meters long and has strong hunting ability. It is a marine carnivore. Everything from nautilus to fish, shrimps and crabs are on its diet. It looks like a scorpion and is nicknamed sea scorpion. At this time, the plate-footed horseshoe crab that appeared in front of Zhou Yi was about 2.5 meters long and had a pair of huge pliers. If the whole body stands upright, he is taller than Zhou Yi by more than half his body. It has discovered that Zhou Yi is approaching. He immediately turned around, supporting his arthropod-like claws under his abdomen, holding a pair of large pliers high, and bowed his body high. Put on a defensive posture. Zhou Yi found that there were many broken fish and shrimp bodies floating in the seawater around it, probably thanks to its pair of iron pliers. Judging from its appearance, it seemed to be scaring Zhou Yi. Seeing Zhou Yi unmoved, immediately raising the pliers, Zhou Yi's huge body pounced towards him. Everyone is a carnivore, and Zhou Yi is not used to it. He came with a guy in hand. Zhou Yi took out the crescent sickle on his back, raised it flat and swept it forward. The plate-footed horseshoe crab immediately raised its pincers to protect its shell. Zhou Yi lifted 600 kilograms flatly and waved the crescent sickle to exert force horizontally. When the sickle is swung down, the force exerted exceeds 1 ton. The pliers used by the horseshoe crab to resist could not withstand such huge force. There was a crack. The clamp shell has cracks. Under the tremendous force, the body lost its balance. The other pincer attack of the horseshoe crab was also dodged by Zhou Yi. The plate-footed horseshoe crab pounced and missed. The body just lay on the shore. Seeing that it was in vain, Zhou Yi immediately turned the crescent sickle in his hand and waved it from behind his head, using both hands hard. Swing it down like a hoe. The sickle blade hit the horseshoe crab's carapace firmly. A force of counter-shock came along the handle of the sickle, causing Zhou Yi's jaw to go numb. Zhou Yi's hands were numb from the shock. It is conceivable that this horseshoe crab is not feeling well either. The body shook rapidly up and down. It was so painful that it jumped alive. This plate-footed horseshoe crab is indeed the leader of the Ordovician period. The response is very fast. Knowing that this guy in front of me is not easy to mess with. The 4 claws on the flanks of the abdomen quickly dug into the sand, preparing to drill into the ground and escape. Zhou Yi also didn't expect that the horseshoe crab could dig the ground. How could I let you go so easily? Zhou Yi noticed that the carapace on its back was very hard as rock. But it is not so hard from the abdomen down, and there is a faint sense of flesh under the thin body. There should be less resistance when cutting from here. Zhou Yi stabbed it again, heading straight for its waist and abdomen. One knife directly cut off the lower half of its body. Zhou Yi took a look and found that the shell on its head was not that thick either. So he cut off his head again. Remove the head and tail, just enough to cook and eat. Zhou Yi slashed 3 times, and the horseshoe crab was separated from head to tail. Sent directly. Zhou Yi stepped over the corpse of the horseshoe crab. Go to the front to see how much the fishing net is torn. Look at how many fish and shrimps are left in the net. It turned out that there were more than half fewer fish and shrimps than in the first fishing net. This fishing net has a big hole in it and is basically unusable. Although Zhou Yi specially used thick hemp rope, the ferocity of these prehistoric creatures in the ocean completely exceeded his expectations. Even such a thick hemp rope can be cut directly. It seems that we need to replace it with a stronger wire rope next time. The catch of the second net was gone, and Zhou Yi was furious. He turned back and picked up the body of the horseshoe crab from the ground. Give it a close-up, then upload the photos to the World Channel. A prehistoric sea creature from the Ordovician period, the horseshoe crab. If you want it, the boss will automatically send you a private message with a price. Yesterday's prehistoric sea fish and shrimps will continue to arrive fresh today. Welcome new and old customers. Zhou Yi gave a speech on the World Channel. It immediately caused a wave of discussion. What kind of new species is this? I learned more about it today. Boss, this horseshoe crab belongs to me. I bid 5x the intermediate blood source essence. Didn't you always sell berries before? Now you have switched to selling aquatic products. Funny laugh. I want this horseshoe crab. 8 copies of intermediate blood source essence. Seller, I would like to ask if this horseshoe crab bites people and kills them alive. Nonsense, of course it's dead, living things cannot be traded. Boss, give me 100 kilograms of fish and shrimp. I'll give you 60 copies of primary blood essence in exchange. Quote. There is everything on the World Channel. Zhou Yi looked at their various bids. Those customers who come to buy seafood with sincerity. If the question can be answered, he will answer it. Someone else has already recognized him. He had been selling berries on the World Channel before. Now he has switched to selling seafood again. It's quite famous. There are a total of 8 billion people in the World Channel. Among so many people, it is memorable. I have an impression of you as a person. It's also a skill. The plate-footed horseshoe crab was finally bought with 15x intermediate blood source essence. This price is quite acceptable. The horseshoe crab itself is not worth the price. Because of its rarity, the value has been pushed up. But compared with the lost catch, the overall loss is still a loss. Fish out the remaining fish and shrimps in the second fishing net, which totals only 200 to 300 kilograms. The third fishing net is left. Joe buried it in relatively deep water last night. There should be a lot of fish in the net now. Now it's time to close the net. Joe is full of expectations for the third fishing net. Untie the rope tied to the reef and pull hard. Tie the network port tightly. A fishing net of fish and shrimp began to jump on the sea surface. Some fish and shrimp struggled out of the water, rolling in waves. This network, absolutely indispensable. Joe ran into the sea water in a few steps. Prepare to drag the fishing net ashore. As soon as he exerted force on his hand, Joe knew something in his heart. This fishing net is very heavy. He almost fell into the sea. The fish in this net is estimated to weigh close to 2 tons. If it weren't for Joe's increased strength, he really wouldn't be able to drag the fish in this net. It took a lot of effort to drag the fishing net ashore. There are indeed a lot of fish and shrimps inside, and they are all jumping on the shore. Joe even found a trilobite that was also caught in the net. He just ate this thing yesterday, but he didn't expect to catch it again today. He had personally tasted the taste of trilobites. They were delicious and fat, suitable for deep frying. Joe first took out the trilobite. Take them out individually and sell them. Picking and choosing among the remaining fish and shrimps. See if there are any rare items. This challenge really exists. Joe discovered that one of the shrimps was extremely fat. The body length is nearly 2 meters. A pair of huge shrimp pincers protruded from the mouth like hooks, poking forward. The most peculiar thing is its eyes, which are as big as table tennis balls. The open mouth looks like a big wrist, filled with sharp teeth distributed like gears. The key is, it's still a carnivore. At this time, it was still chewing half of a fish in its mouth. He swallowed half of Joe's fish. Joe also recognized that this strange-looking prawn was an Anomalocaris. According to Prehistoric Creatures, it was active in the Cambrian period. The body length can reach 2 meters. A pair of pincers are actually its forelimbs. It is an omnivorous animal. There are almost no rivals in the Cambrian and they eat everything. At this time, this strange shrimp was crazily stuffing food into its mouth with its pair of forelimbs. After stuffing it, it stretched out its sickle-shaped forelimbs and began to pick up other fish and shrimp smaller than it. Joe became angry when he saw it. Immediately waved the crescent sickle. Cut off its 2 forelimbs with one knife. The painful shrimp immediately bowed and jumped up on the spot. Joe didn't care about it, he stabbed it down again. The head was flattened directly. Pick out strange shrimps from the fishing net. First, hang it on the World Channel to sell it. What the hell is this? This is an anomaly. I saw it again. I'll go first. 10 copies of intermediate blood source essence, 1 price. There are also trilobites. Quote. Joe first put the Anomalocaridés and trilobites out for sale separately. And among the remaining marine fish and shrimps, although there are some less common ones, they all fall into the common seafood category. Sold starting from 100 kilograms. Joe sat down on a rock on the coast. Sit back and wait for the audience to bid. In the end, all the catches were sold. A total of 53 intermediate blood essences and more than 800 primary blood essences were harvested. The total harvest is probably more than twice what it was yesterday. Joe specially exchanged 30 kilograms of steel wire with others. I have fishing net making scroll in hand. 3 huge wire fishing nets were made from steel wire. Collect 3 thick hemp rope fishing nets in the sea, throw away one of them that is broken, and sell the other 2 directly. This kind of thick hemp rope fishing net still cannot hold the creatures in the sea. You have to use wire fishing nets. Joe continued to lower the 3 steel wire fishing nets into the sea. 2 sheets spread among the rocks. Take one out alone and go into the deep water. Return to the cave again. In this way, this shallow beach is equivalent to Joe's natural fishing ground. He can contribute several tons of fish and shrimp every day. Even more important than the vegetable garden in Joe's eyes. After returning to the cave, Zheng Pengfei immediately sent new news to Joe. Zheng Pengfei said that Li Yan announced a new message to all members of their python killing team. After everyone kills the python, the loot must be handed over. Finally, according to the number of pythons killed, the rewards will be redeemed in his hands. The more you kill, the richer the reward. Li Yan also made a list for them, and the highest reward was a city return scroll. Many people in the python killing team were moved. As soon as Zhou Yi heard about the list, he guessed the intention of this guy Li Yan. Handing over the trophies of the python he killed as his money-making scheme. A scroll to return to the city seems very precious, equivalent to a second life. Many people will be willing to fight, but fighting against the giant python is a desperate matter. In the process of killing pythons, I don't know how many people will die. Is it worth it to trade so many lives for a scroll of return to the city? It must not be worth it to others, but to Li Yan alone, it is worth it. This is where he is shrewd. Zhou Yi immediately sent a message to Zheng Pengfei. This is his trap. Don't go to extreme lengths. If you encounter a danger that you can't resist, save your own life first. Don't be obsessed with that scroll to return to the city. Zheng Pengfei is obviously also a smart person. Zhou Yi said this. Then you understand Li Yan's money-making tricks. Don't worry, benefactor, I won't be fooled by him. I will be the first to retreat when in danger. As long as Zheng Pengfei understands. Zhou Yi asked. When will you take action? Zheng Pengfei. I heard from them that people from the Fire Alliance have already figured out the general distribution range of pythons and are preparing to hunt them this afternoon. After Zhou Yi said, be careful, he closed the message. What the situation is now is still unknown. Zhou Yi remembered that he set a fire in that canyon and withdrew. It's not clear whether the fire burned or not. There is no need for him to risk going to the virgin forest for the time being. He can just guard this fishing ground. If the python disaster is really serious enough to wipe out the entire island, then we'll figure it out then. If it really doesn't work, crossing the sea is also a helpless choice. Zhou Yi eats 3 meals a day normally, while paying attention to the python disaster trends on the regional channel. Now he only stays in the cave. Raise the mistress to be fat and strong. When the crisis comes, he will be a reliable helper. At noon, Zheng Pengfei sent another message that they were ready to set off. All afternoon, Zhou Yi is paying attention to the situation of the python killing team. But Zheng Pengfei never sent any message back. Zhou Yi was a little worried while waiting. This moment of Zheng Pengfei's life is at stake, and Zhou Yi will not bother him by casually sending messages. Zhou Yi guessed that he might have been injured and was unable to reply. Waited until night. The news about Zheng Pengfei came belatedly. Benefactor, I'm injured. Photo uploaded by Zheng Pengfei. In the photo, there are 2 huge tooth marks on his arm. The bite mark of the teeth is very deep, and the 2 huge teeth are completely embedded in the flesh. The wound completely turned into 2 bloody holes. This shows the ferocity of the giant python. Just as Zhou Yi guessed, Zheng Pengfei was indeed injured. Zhou Yi immediately sent 2 bandages to Zheng Pengfei through the trading platform. Zheng Pengfei, thank you. I feel fine now. Although I was injured, I successfully killed that big guy. Zhou Yi, recuperate first and then talk about other things. How are the others doing? Zheng Pengfei, we are hunting on the outskirts of the primitive forest. We have not yet approached the snake nest. I heard from them that many snakes have escaped from the snake nest. Now there are almost no other wild beasts on the outskirts of the forest. They are all primitive pythons. Besides me, some people were seriously injured, and a few people died. This is probably the case. Zhou Yi nodded, said take care, and turned off the chat. All the snakes in the snake nest escaped. What's going on? Zhou Yi fell into thinking. There are obviously still 1 to 2 days before Zhao Qingkong concludes that the python disaster will break out. At this time, the snakes can no longer hold back. Since Zheng Pengfei said that he has not been close to the snake nest yet, and the snake is only moving around the periphery of the forest and has not left the forest yet, Zhou Yi is not in a hurry. Even if the python disaster breaks out, it will take at least a week for the snake to reach him. Zhou Yi continued to check the regional channel for news about the python disaster. Some people say that the python disaster has broken out, and players are starting to go offline around the forest. Some people say that the python disaster has not yet broken out, and that if it does break out, it will spread across the island in an instant. Others say that these snakes, which are accustomed to living in the rainforest, will not invade the plains, and the python outbreak will not affect them. There are various opinions. No one can convince anyone. Zhou Yi took a quick look and closed the regional channel. A night of silence. Early the next morning, Zhou Yi tied the hemp rope again and came to the foot of the cliff. Today's fish catch was more than the previous 2 days. On the coast, there are still some tides that have not completely receded. The fish and shrimps on the shore are jumping constantly, which is dazzling at first glance. They are all fresh seafood. Just looking at the people on the shore, the number is no less than yesterday. If you add in the seawater, it would be more than the harvest of the previous 2 days combined. Zhou Yi jumped off the hemp rope. Looking into the sea water, I suddenly felt happy. I saw many fish, shrimps and crabs hidden under the sea water. Among them were 3 or 4 huge sea scorpions. This guy came yesterday and was not convinced. I came again today and called my family brother Guangqi Limulus. Zhou Yi could see clearly that there was a large sea insect under the water with tails on both sides. The body shape is very similar to the stone horseshoe crab. But there is a difference. The 2 wings on the side of the body are constantly flapping the water. The surrounding fish and shrimps all walked around it. Because of its large size, half of its body is exposed above the water. Zhou Yi immediately decided to get rid of these pests first. Because this thing will keep eating fish and shrimps. One was still swimming in the shallow water at this time. They hunted fish and shrimp everywhere and ate up all Zhou Yi's fish. How could Zhou Yi let them succeed? Holding the crescent sickle, he jumped into the water. As soon as several slate horseshoe crabs saw Zhou Yi coming, unexpectedly changed the target at the same time. The collective faces Zhou Yi and is unanimously open to the outside world. Looking at the 4 slate horseshoe crabs holding up their pliers at the same time, he rushed over menacingly. If he had never encountered it before, maybe Zhou Yi was really a little scared. But after the last collision, Zhou Yi has figured out their background. The crescent sickle sweeps back and forth, open and close. Avoid their thick shells, only attack the waist and abdomen. How can their pliers compare to a sickle? The one who is older than you is stronger than you. The sea scorpions, whose weaknesses were discovered, were quickly cut off at the waist by Zhou Yi and then decapitated, killing them one after another. There is no one who can fight. Zhou Yi looked at the last remaining sea scorpion that was still fighting. Suddenly I remembered something. His fishery always needs a janitor. Every time these anomalies and sea scorpions come in to snatch his catch, the gatekeeper is responsible for driving them away. Zhou Yi felt that he could tame the remaining sea scorpion and let it watch the scene for him. Zhou Yi also has experience this time. If you use tame right from the start, it will almost 100% fail. Zhou Yi directly waved his sickle and had a battle with this sea scorpion. Zhou Yi swung his sickle, and after a few hammer blows, the sea scorpion couldn't bear it anymore. To escape to the sea. How could Zhou Yi give it a chance to escape? Every time the sea scorpion tries to escape, use the sickle to pull it back. After going back and forth a few times, the sea scorpion fell down from exhaustion. Lying on the beach and pretending to be dead, Zhou Yi immediately took the opportunity to tame it. The sea scorpion, which had been tortured countless times, was easily tamed by Zhou Yi. Good. Now he has a new general under his command. Zhou Yi excitedly checked the loyalty of sea scorpion. I found that the loyalty of sea scorpions is not high, only 50. It's obvious that it was forced. But don't be in a hurry. The mistress's loyalty has now reached 80. After the sea scorpion was successfully tamed, it just lay down where it was, waiting for Zhou Yi's order. Zhou Yi first took a prawn out of the sea and threw it into its mouth. The sea scorpion immediately picked up the prawn and put it in his mouth to chew the delicious food. After finishing the feast, Zhou Yi was surprised to find that the sea scorpion's loyalty had increased by 5. It becomes 55 points. Zhou Yi patted its huge carapace. Then he gave it an order to keep an eye on this fishing ground to prevent its kind from invading. Sea scorpion seemed a little confused. Its IQ cannot understand such a complicated meaning. Zhou Yi tried to interpret this sentence as meaning territory. When sea scorpion heard this, he immediately understood. It can still understand what territory is. This is its territory, and any enemy that breaks in will die. The sea scorpion immediately held up a pair of large pincers and ran to a rock to prepare. All right, Zhou Yi finally found a security guard for his fishing ground. Zhou Yi put away the sickle and continued to pull the fishing net. Then sell all the remaining 3 sea scorpions. Pick up all the fish and shrimps on the shore and the fish and shrimps in the sea and sell them. Finally found. A total of nearly 5 tons of fish were sold today. Make big money. Zhou Yi will lower tomorrow's fishing net again. Tell the sea scorpions to patrol carefully. Then he grabbed the hemp rope and went up. Today's bumper harvest is enough to feed him and his mistress for half a month. Zhou Yi returned to the cave. I immediately asked Zheng Pengfei about the situation on the other side. Zheng Pengfei said that today the people sent by the Fire Alliance to investigate the python disaster found signs that the python was starting to riot. The number of pythons on the outskirts of the virgin forest began to increase significantly, and they were gradually unable to suppress these pythons from the forest to the surrounding areas. People who live near the virgin forest have moved away from the forest one after another. Except for the people from their python killing team, there was no one around the primeval forest. In addition, the Hope Alliance also sent a group of people to join their python killing team. Wang Ming and Li Yan suddenly started to join forces for unknown reasons. However, the two alliances are indeed discussing how to deal with the python disaster, and they have not made any mistakes. Now that the python disaster is getting worse, the situation is a little out of control. The tasks of the members of their python killing team have also become heavier today. Zhou Yi nodded and sent a few more bandages to Zheng Pengfei. Zheng Pengfei smiled and said, "Thank you, Xiao Yu has prepared these for me. I have medical supplies here." Zhou Yi, "Okay, tell me if you need anything." Zheng Pengfei, "Okay." Then the two closed the chat. The intensification of the python disaster is a situation that no one wants to see. It is useless for Li Yan and Wang Ming to play any tricks at this time. Because once Area 851 is gone and occupied by pythons, everyone will die. It's useless no matter how many tricks you have. At this time, everyone can only work together to find a way to deal with the python disaster first. After temporarily understanding the situation on the front line, Zhou Yi then began to train the mistress first. After the mistress's binge eating these days, her weight increased rapidly. Now Zhou Yi can no longer carry it under his arm like he did before. He tried, but couldn't lift it at all. Zhou Yiping lifted more than 600 pounds. Mistress weight soared to more than 300 kilograms in a few days. It can now eat about 100 kilograms of food every day. The appetite far exceeds that of humans. The body shape has become stronger again. I wonder if the mistress is taking the agility potion. The body is not as strong as the ordinary Triceratops, but has become very strong. The body shape is a bit like a cat, and the whole body is full of explosive power. Now it has grown close to the size of a cheetah. Zhou Yi would take it with him to the cliff every day when he had nothing to do. Train it to pounce on some primitive birds resting on the top of a rock cliff. Xiao San will make very ferocious pounce movements every time. The 3 horns on its head are its weapons. He ran wildly, his curved and sharp horns moving forward. Iron-blooded sprint. The birds were so frightened that they flapped their wings and flew away. Mistresses have a very playful temperament. I chase the bird on the top of the cliff everywhere, running endlessly. Almost all the birds on the cliff have suffered from Xiaosan. As long as this Triceratops climbs up the stone cliff, they will have no place to rest. To be chased back and forth, as if tirelessly. Zhou Yi was also puzzled that Xiaosan was not as docile as other herbivores at all. Only then did he remember that when he first met Xiaosan, it supported its small body and stared at him stubbornly without any fear. Even though I was much stronger than it at the time, I was not afraid. I'm afraid it is born with such a character. Very brave and fierce. Among the Triceratops group, the strongest Triceratops will be responsible for protecting the entire group. Xiaosan's mother is the leader of the entire Triceratops clan. When angry, the horns kept hitting the mountains, and even the mountains were faintly shaking. The mistress must have inherited her mother's temper. When he grows up, he is destined to take over from his mother. Roar! Xiao San ran around on the top of the rock cliff and chased away all the resting birds around before giving up. Even after running dozens of laps, I still don't feel tired. seeing that no bird dared to stay on the stone cliff. So he changed his direction, his eyes flashing with excitement, and rushed directly towards his master Zhou Yi. It's the opposite, it's the opposite. You guy. Zhou Yi smiled and watched Xiao San rushing over like a little rhinoceros. He doesn't know how to force it. The mistress rushed towards him as if she had her sights set on him. He threw Zhou Yi to the ground in one fell swoop. Stick out your tongue and lick him playfully. Zhou Yi took out spring water from his backpack and gave it to drink, and Xiao San calmed down. During the day, Zhou Yi trained his mistress on the top of the cliff. Let him cross various obstacles, run, and bite. The day passed quickly. The next day, when Zhou Yi opened his eyes early in the morning, he saw a system prompt. System reminder. Today's temperature is 10 to 22 degrees, be careful of pythons. Even the system prompts came out. It can be seen that the python disaster is really coming, as Zhao Qingkong said. But this reminder is too late. It is already too late for ordinary people to react now. Zhou Yi quickly got up and took a look at the news on the regional channel. Everyone is talking about the python disaster. Because they were prepared in advance, very few people died. Not many people were injured. But everyone is worried and frightened. I saw someone saying that pythons have escaped from the original forest and started to invade the surrounding areas. The specific circumstances are unknown. Zhou Yi took a brief look and closed the message. Instead of listening to other people's nonsense, it is better to learn from Zheng Pengfei. After Zhou Yi finished breakfast, so I lowered the hemp rope and went down from the top of the cliff to see the situation of the fishing ground. Zhou Yigang came down from the top of the cliff. He saw a scene that dumbfounded him, and then his whole mood began to plummet. On the shore below, a huge ichthyosaur climbed up the coast, easily chewed through the wire fishing net with his sharp teeth. He opened his big mouth and swallowed all the fish and shrimps on the shore into his mouth. Its body is very strong, its neck is very long, and the most terrifying thing is that it has a long beak full of spike-like teeth. The gatekeeper general I just tamed, sea scorpion. It had been bitten to death by its sharp fangs. The carapace of the horseshoe crab is already very hard. If you take one bite, it will fall apart. This big guy completely occupied Zhou Yi's fishing ground and was enjoying the meal. Moreover, this guy is not a fish and is not afraid of being stranded. Note that it climbs up, has very thick limbs. Zhou Yi couldn't recognize what kind of monster this was at first glance. I found out after reading Prehistoric Creatures. This bad guy is a magic dragon. Growing up in the Triassic. Amphibians, which can go ashore and enter the water, are 6 meters long and weigh 3 to 4 tons. Feed on various fish. There was no rival in the ocean at that time. It cannot be beaten in the water, but it can swim ashore with its agile body. This amphibian monster is the most cunning. At this time, this magical dragon ate all the fish, shrimps and crabs on the coast one by one. After filling its stomach, use sharp teeth to directly break the wire rope. I swam back to the sea easily. Zhou Yi was left with only a messy fishing ground. Zhou Yi watched the magic dragon pat its butt and swim away. Didn't go down immediately, because this guy may come back at any time. This is a big guy with a head and body length of 6 meters, and he is not slow in running. The most terrifying thing is its bite force. A mouth full of fangs embedded in the mouth like barbs. One bite shattered the horseshoe crab's back shell. In its eyes, there is no guarantee that Zhou Yi will not be hunted by it. Moreover, this thing can be landed at any time. It would be useless even to escape to the shore. Zhou Yi could only watch it destroy the fishery. Waiting until the afternoon, Zhou Yi looked at the sea and found that there seemed to be no movement. Only then did he have the courage to put down the hemp rope and jump to the shore to check the status of the catch. Looking at it, today's catch is simply terrible. After being beaten by the magic dragon, there were not many fish, shrimps and crabs left. The key is that it also bit through the fishing net, allowing many fish and shrimps caught in the net to escape through the net. Zhou Yi picked, and finally got a catch of about 500 kilograms. The harvest was only about 1/3 of that on the first day. So miserable. Zhou Yi picked up the fishing net from the sea. 2 fishing nets are broken, and 1 fishing net is intact. However, the fishing nets on the edge of the reef are adjacent to each other. As long as one of the 2 fishing nets is broken, the fish can escape through the loopholes in the other net. It was a pity that the fishing net that Zhou Yi lowered into the deep water was also broken. Zhou Yi threw away the 2 broken fishing nets and put the remaining one into the deep water. I bought 2 more steel wire fishing nets and set them up again. During the process, we must be careful to prevent the phantom dragon from suddenly killing him again. After doing this, Zhou Yi hastily sold 500 kilograms of seafood and returned to the cave. I can only say that I was unlucky today and ran into a magical dragon. Just consider yourself unlucky. Zhou Yi was not discouraged. Since this is a natural fishing ground, it is normal for this kind of thing to happen. Then he continued to pay attention to the python disaster in the cave. Zhang Pengfei sent him a message around evening. Zhang Pengfei told him excitedly that today he killed 3 giant pythons alone. Because he had his first encounter with the giant python yesterday, he didn't know the python's habits. Now that he has figured out the routine, he can kill much more easily. And he didn't get hurt at all. Zhou Yi was also surprised that Zhang Pengfei could kill 3 giant pythons alone. It can be seen that Zhang Pengfei himself has some abilities. The giant python is entangled, and its strength is very scary. Can strangle a buffalo alive. Zhang Pengfei killed 3 giant pythons, so his strength should not be weak. Zhou Yi guessed that this might be related to the fact that he had eaten dinosaur meat. Zhou Yi then asked about the situation of the python disaster. Zhang Pengfei said that the situation is not optimistic. The number of pythons is more and denser than yesterday. It has begun to spread out from the original forest. After Zhou Yi understood the situation, he continued to train the mistress. Xiao San becomes stronger and stronger every day under his training. The next day, Zhou Yi put down the hemp rope with great expectation and prepared to go down the cliff. I planned to see the catch of the new day. Result: a scene that made him very angry appeared again. The phantom dragon swam over again. The fishing nets arranged by Zhou Yi on the reef were completely destroyed by it. At this moment it is lying on the shore. The abdomen is raised high. It was obviously full. Looking at the surrounding fishing grounds, there are almost none left. Zhou Yi could guess that today's catch was probably ruined again. After the magic dragon left, Zhou Yi went down the cliff and put away the fishing net again. There were several big holes in the fishing net. The fishing net stuck in the deep water was also torn out a big hole. The remaining catch was sold, and there was not even enough money to buy new fishing nets. After Zhou Yi returned to the cave, only then did I know it was broken. This magical dragon knows the taste of marrow. It doesn't matter if it happens once or twice, as long as it comes every day. It has taken advantage here and will definitely continue to come every day. As a result, Zhou Yi's fishing ground was completely ruined. Zhou Yi had to start thinking about countermeasures. We must find a way to cure this phantom dragon. If he faces the phantom dragon alone, his chance of winning is almost 0. Even if he holds the crescent scythe, he cannot be his opponent. Zhou Yi began to read Prehistoric Creatures. Find a way to deal with the magic dragon. Looking through the information, Zhou Yi found that the magic dragon was not without natural enemies, but because of its amphibious habits, it had very few natural enemies. In the sea, there are a lot of behemoths that can easily deal with the magic dragon. But these ocean overlords all live in deep waters and rarely come to shallow waters. At most, I'll come here for a walk occasionally. When the magic dragon saw those deep-sea giants rushing towards them, they must have slipped ashore long ago. So, it's really not easy to deal with it. Zhou Yi was looking through Prehistoric Creatures while thinking about countermeasures. For the next 3 consecutive days, Zhou Yi's fishing grounds are invaded by magic dragons every day. This monster comes every morning, and sometimes again at noon. Even come here at night, running to the shore 3 times a day. Zhou Yi can't even lower the fishing net now. As soon as the fishing net is put down, it will be chewed up by the magic dragon. Zhou Yi didn't catch any fish for several days in a row. Fortunately, he had made enough before, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough to eat these days. In the past few days, Zhou Yi has also been paying close attention to the movements of the python disaster. According to the news obtained from Zhang Pengfei, the situation of the python disaster has improved slightly. The number of pythons swimming out of the virgin forest has decreased significantly in the past few days. He didn't know the specific reason. The Fire Alliance is sending some elite personnel to risk their lives to sneak into the snake nest to investigate the situation. The python disaster is temporarily under control, which is good news for Zhou Yi. However, the python disaster seems to have receded on its own and has nothing to do with the python killing team. In the afternoon of the third day, Zhou Yi stood on the top of the stone cliff again and took out his telescope to observe the sea in the distance. The weather is good today and the sea water is clear to the bottom. Under the rock cliff, the magic dragon is lying lazily on the shore. Eat and bask in the sun. Zhou Yi looked at the sea in the distance attentively. As a result, there was a surprising discovery. A huge sea creature is wandering in the nearby sea. Just looking at its size, it is definitely close to 10 meters long. The long neck and four fins slide back and forth, and the body jumps out like a fish in the water, very flexible. Kronosaurus. Zhou Yi was so excited that he almost dropped the telescope. This kind of dragon lives exclusively in water and feeds on large marine creatures. Considered a close relative of the plesiosaur. But its head is much larger than that of the plesiosaur. A huge mouth is filled with sharp teeth, and its bite force is much stronger than that of a plesiosaur. It is one of the few dragon nemesis in the deep sea. Zhou Yi looks forward to the stars and the moon. The monster that can kill the phantom dragon is finally here. Next, he wanted the phantom dragon to spit out all the consequences of its dominance over the past few days. Chapter 31. After Zhou Yi discovered the traces of Cruosaurus, immediately start implementing the plan he prepared early in the morning. In fact, Zhou Yi's plan is very simple, just to drive the tiger away and devour the wolf. Try every means to let Kronosaurus kill the phantom dragon. Zhou Yi climbed back into the cave first and took out a basket of sea fish. Climb back to the cliff and throw it hard. A whole frame of sea fish was thrown towards the area where Kronosaurus was infested. Of course, these sea fish are not fed to Kronosaurus. These are the sea fish that phantom dragon loves to eat. Zhou Yi's method is to first lure the magic dragon from the coast to the deep sea. Then let the Kronosaurus attack the phantom dragon. In order to let the magic dragon go into the sea, Zhou Yi specially cut a hole in the body of the sea fish. Let the smell of blood come out. Tempt the phantom dragon to hunt for food. After Zhou Yi finished throwing a basket, he saw that the magic dragon on the coast below was motionless. Then throw another basket. With an arm strength of over 600 kilograms, he threw the fish with all his strength, and the fish was thrown more than 100 meters away from the shore. The strong smell of fish and blood spread. Each basket of sea fish weighs 300 kilograms. 2 baskets of fish weighing 600 kilograms were thrown into the sea. The phantom dragon lying lazily on the shore finally moved. Like a hyena that smelled the rotten smell, it fluttered its limbs and went into the sea. After the magic dragon got into the sea, it opened its big mouth and followed the fish that was thrown into the sea and ate it happily. Zhou Yi threw these sea fish in a regular manner. He threw less in shallow seas, and most of them were thrown in the area where Kronosaurus appeared. The magic dragon has been swimming happily in the sea chasing the smell of sea fish. Little did he know that he had fallen into Zhou Yi's trap. The bait has been thrown down, and the magic dragon has entered the trap area. Attracted by the sea fish, I was happily eating them one bite at a time. Zhou Yi used a telescope to observe Kronosaurus. Kronosaurus is not far away from it. The predator instinct makes it smell the opportunity to hunt. Zhou Yi discovered that Cruosaurus had moved. The 4 huge fins swung and jumped out very fast. The magic dragon seemed to smell the approaching danger. Instinct makes it alert. The fish meat dropped into his mouth, turned around and ran away. Kronosaurus chased after him closely. The magic dragon is also very cunning and swims directly to the shore. But in the sea, how can 4 legs swim with 4 fins? A scream came from the deep sea. The magic dragon was bitten in the neck fiercely by Kronosaurus. Twist it hard, then slowly dragged it back to the deep sea. Zhou Yi had a great time watching Xia Mountain. Can't help but cheer. I've been enduring it for a few days. Finally got killed. Zhou Yi immediately borrowed a hemp rope to go down the cliff. When you come to the coast, immediately put down the fishing net. Although it is already approaching evening, I can make up for it this night. It's a pity, but it would be great if we could make a net stronger than steel wire fishing net. This way, you don't have to worry when the magic dragon comes. It is not difficult to make high-end fishing nets, but you need to further upgrade your base. Zhou Yi currently does not have the conditions to make high-end fishing nets. Seeing that the fishing ground that had been absent for 3 days was again taken back into his hands, Zhou Yi felt as if he had let out a strong breath of bad breath. After setting down the fishing net, Zhou Yi returned to Xia. There will be new seafood to pick up tomorrow. Zhou Yi returned to the cave that day and had a sumptuous meal in the evening. Celebrate your success in taking back the fishing ground. At this time, Zhang Pengfei sent a message. There are new developments in the Python disaster situation. According to the news from members of the Fire Alliance and Hope Alliance who went deep into the snake nest, burnt marks were found everywhere near the snake's nest. The entire canyon seemed to have been roasted by fire, and all vegetation was barren. Even the ground was emitting black smoke, and the air was filled with a thick burnt smell. No one knew what happened, and they were all shocked when they heard the news. However, according to those who went to the scene to investigate, a large number of burnt snake shells were left in the canyon. The snakes that were still in the nest were burned to death. There is a lot of fine-grade snake meat and blood essence left on the ground of the canyon. Hearing this, Zhou Yi almost jumped out of his chair with excitement. This fire was definitely set by him. He never dreamed that he would burn down the entire canyon with a fire. What's more important is that there are countless blood essences and sophisticated snake meat scattered in the canyon. This is a huge fortune. Even Zhou Yi couldn't help but feel excited. But he couldn't help but wonder, why didn't the Pyro Alliance block the news about such a good deed? Zhang Pengfei said, they planned to do this at first, but I overheard it. After all, there were many people who saw it at the time. By the time the news reached Li Yan and Wang Ming, many people already knew about it. Zhou Yi nodded and then asked, approximately how many snakes were burned to death in the canyon? Zhang Pengfei, there are too many to estimate. According to those who came back from the snake nest, the ground is full of snake meat and blood essence. The people who went there made a fortune, but there was still a lot of snake meat that the bloodborne didn't have time to take away. Zhang Pengfei sighed, it's a pity. It's a pity that my leg was injured, otherwise I would have gone in and made a fortune no matter what. Zhou Yi, that's such a pity. Zhang Pengfei, benefactor, are you planning to? Zhou Yi, well, it's a rare opportunity. I'm going to go to the snake nest. Zhang Pengfei reminded, my benefactor, the primeval forest is now much more dangerous than before. After the snake nests were burned down, those pythons with nowhere to go are now entrenched in the primeval forest. Not 1 out of 10 people who enter the snake's nest will come out alive. Zhou Yi, I know, you have forgotten who was the first person to discover the snake nest. After Zhou Yi reminded him, Zhang Pengfei immediately reacted and touched the back of his head. Yes, my benefactor, it was you who took that photo, haha. Is there anyone more familiar with the road to snake nest than Zhou Yi? Zhou Yi closed the message. He stood up from the table excitedly. Look at the time, it's almost evening now. It is estimated that it will be dark soon. The virgin forest is now full of dangers, not to mention traveling at night. It must be even more dangerous if we have to wait until tomorrow morning. The good things scattered in the canyon must have been picked up long ago. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that Zhou Yi cannot miss. Mistress, come out with me. Zhou Yi slapped the table and said. Roar, a group of black shadows rushed over. I almost knocked over the table next to me. Xiao San is now close to the size of a tiger, weighing more than 500 kilograms. A pair of eyes brightened with excitement. There was huffing in the nostrils and I was breathing heavily. It has been kept at home for too long, and it has long been eager to go out and breathe free air. Sharp horns, strong and muscular body. Standing next to Zhou Yi, he looked like a beast. As long as she can go out, the mistress is so excited that she jumps up and down. It doesn't matter if it's day or night. Zhou Yi patted its head and took all the equipment with him. Spread out the map and head straight to the virgin forest. Zhou Yi and his mistress were on their way in the evening. By the time they arrived near the primeval forest, it was already past 8 p.m. By this time, it was completely dark. During the journey, Zhou Yi killed 4 big black pythons. Zhou Yi also wanted to understand the reason why the python disaster broke out early. Because the snake nest was burned down, the pythons had nowhere to go. You can only swim out of the virgin forest. So the python disaster broke out in advance. And because Zhou Yi burned down the snake nest. Therefore, the original scale of the python disaster, which was at least several million, was greatly reduced and turned into a small python disaster with only a few 100,000. Zhou Yi thought about it. If he hadn't set a fire, maybe the whole island would have turned into a snake island. At this time, the primeval forest under the night was particularly gloomy. Back to the place where I first left. I don't know if the berry forest is still there. Zhou Yi planned to go straight to the berry forest and go deep into the virgin forest. After all, he has walked that road countless times and is extremely familiar with it. You can also transplant some berry trees and plant them back. After making up his mind, Zhou Yi took Xiaosan into the virgin forest. There's actually a moon tonight, even though it's already dark. But the moonlight shines through the overlapping vines above the primeval forest. It still provides a certain degree of visibility. Zhou Yi turned on the flashlight, turned it to the maximum brightness, and mounted it on his headgear before heading on his way. Not long after we entered the familiar path, Zhou Yi discovered something was wrong. There is a giant python lurking on the branches on both sides. Two large black pythons, both 7 or 8 meters long. He was staring at him, spitting out snake letters with a bad look on his face. The number of pythons has indeed increased, and as soon as we entered the forest, we encountered 2. Has the forest been completely taken over by pythons now? Zhou Yi didn't have time to think too much. The giant python on the tree on the right was already ready to move. Zhou Yi took off the horn bow from his back. When the big black python on the right opened its mouth and suddenly burst into attack, Zhou Yi quickly shot the arrow in his hand. The sharp arrow directly penetrated the python's head and nailed its snake head to the tree trunk behind it. The painful snake body kept twisting back and forth, unable to break free. Without waiting for Zhou Yi's order, Xiaosan had already rushed forward and was fighting with another big black python on the left. The power of the black python cannot be underestimated. The most powerful thing about them is their entanglement. Once the long snake body wraps around its prey, it's time for them to exert their strength. Once strangled for a long time, even a cow can be strangled to death. Mistress will not give it such a chance. During the close fight between the two monsters, Xiaosan seized the opportunity, stepping on the body of the black python with all 4 feet. The big black python weighing 500 kilograms stepped on and screamed in pain. It opened its huge mouth and bit the mistress who was stepping on it. Xiaosan pointed his round head at the black python's open mouth, making it unable to swallow. The black python was so anxious that he could only bite it in one bite. As a result, the 2 horns above Xiaosan's eyebrows were directly pierced through the upper jaw. A pair of sharp snake teeth bit Xiaosan's forehead without leaving any trace at all. The hardest part of Triceratops is the skull. In addition, their skin is also very hard. The whole body is like an armored tank. Only the soft flesh under the abdomen is the key. Generally, Triceratops will not show their belly to others. Zhou Yi added another blow, ending the life of the black python nailed to the tree trunk. Take the snake meat and a few primary blood essences dropped on the ground. Continue driving deeper into the forest. After killing a big black python, the mistress was so excited that she jumped up and down. It is different from other herbivorous dinosaurs in that it likes to be aggressive, feisty and competitive. When seeing wild beasts coming and going, sometimes without waiting for Zhou Yi's instructions, he would rush forward and provoke his opponents. Xiao Sanshan's nature is like this, and Zhou Yi can only let it be released. On the way to the berry forest, Zhou Yi encountered countless pythons along the way. Once he even encountered a dozen pythons blocking the road at the same time. Zhou Yi had to turn around immediately and find another route to the berry forest. The primeval forest is now like a python nest, occupied by a large number of pythons. But originally there were some ferocious beasts in the primeval forest. Each of them is entrenched in its own territory. Territorial awareness cannot be violated. For example, the huge Deinosuchus that Zhou Yi met by the river. The status itself is equivalent to the overlord of the primitive forest. Now the python has invaded its territory. Of course it will immediately become furious and want to drive the python away. The invasion of pythons has aggravated the tension of these ferocious beasts. As long as there is a slight disturbance, they can jump up on the spot and launch a ferocious attack. Zhou Yi is now in such trouble. He accidentally broke into the territory of a saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger cat stood up, flashed its fangs at him, and stared at him with eyes so cold and emotionless. The saber-toothed tiger roared under the moonlight. It was vaguely aware that the intruder was difficult to deal with. Xiaosan's strong body and horns on his head were not a good prey for it. It attempts to issue a warning and drive away intruders. Xiaosan ignored his warning at all. Having grown up with Zhou Yi, it couldn't understand the hints in the forest at all. His excited eyes flashed brightly, and he rushed straight towards the saber-toothed tiger. Zhou Yi was afraid that Xiaosan wouldn't be able to deal with an agile beast like a saber-toothed tiger, so he helped it sweep the formation, climbed up a tree, already had an arrow in his hand, and aimed at the saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger and the mistress soon got into a fight. One is the king of the forest, the other is a land tank. We meet on a narrow road to see who can beat whom. If Xiaosan is allowed to grow for a while, the adult Triceratops will. The saber-toothed tiger was no match. Now the mistress meets the saber-toothed tiger and they are evenly matched. The saber-toothed tiger waved its huge palm and kept greeting Xiaosan. The saber-toothed tiger slapped it out with a palm force close to 1 ton. If slapped on an ordinary person, a slap can kill them directly. He patted the thick-skinned mistress, but was completely ignored by it. Doesn't work at all. The skin of Triceratops is thick and strong, covering the body like a layer of invisible armor. The saber-toothed tiger couldn't hit her at all, so it could only find a way to tear Xiaosan's throat apart with its sharp teeth. But this is more difficult to do. The Triceratops' head shield firmly protected the vital parts of its neck, making it impossible for the saber-toothed tiger to bite. Encountering such a little monster with full armor, the saber-toothed tiger felt helpless. In the end, they could only abandon their territory and escape. The arrow in Zhou Yi's hand was always aimed at it. When the saber-toothed tiger was defeated and ran into the grass, a sharp arrow penetrated its forehead from behind with a whoosh. Saber-toothed tiger, die. The mistress rushed to the body of the saber-toothed tiger and jumped up and down with excitement. It was as if it had killed the saber-toothed tiger. Zhou Yi walked over and looked at the saber-toothed tiger that had fallen to the ground and expired. Somewhat unbelievable. A few days ago, the saber-toothed tiger that had made him so frightened that he lay on the ground without even daring to take a breath. He was shot directly to death by his own arrow. The saber-toothed tiger was not as scary as he thought. Zhou Yi had a bow and arrow in his hand. Cats like saber-toothed tigers without shell protection were most afraid of the bow and arrow in his hand. 2x fine level beast meat and 2x intermediate level blood source essence exploded on the ground. Zhou Yi picked them all up and put them into his backpack. Take the mistress and continue on the road. After another long journey, 10 giant pythons were killed. Zhou Yikai arrived near the original berry forest. Among them, I even encountered a supergiant python with a body length of more than 12 meters. He was shot with 7 arrows by Zhou Yi and survived. In the end, Zhou Yi took advantage of the fight between Xiaosan and the big flower python, pulled out a fine-grade dagger, went around behind him and cut off most of its neck. Bleed to death. It was already difficult for Zhou Yi to deal with a giant python of this size. If he encounters Titanoboa, Zhou Yi can only take a roundabout way. Originally, it only took about 20 minutes to reach the berry forest from the edge of the forest. Now Zhou Yi had to walk for 60 minutes to arrive. This shows how difficult this road is now. Berry Grove is still the same as before Zhou Yi left, nothing has changed. Hundreds of berry trees grow in this area. Zhou Yi roughly surveyed the surrounding area and asked the mistress to look out nearby. Enter the berry forest yourself. Zhou Yi specially selected dozens of young berry saplings that had not yet begun to bear fruit, dug them out together with the soil, and threw them into his dimensional backpack to take away. He has excellent soil cultivation, and these berry trees are expected to bear fruit soon. He only needs to plant them for a day or two when he returns, and there will be fruits ready to pick immediately. Alright, with these dozen berry saplings, you won't have to worry about berries for the next period of time. After doing this, Zhou Yi put on his backpack and prepared to continue on the road with his mistress. But I found that the mistress was chewing berries from a berry tree until she was so excited. Juice was all over my face. Do you still like to eat berries? Zhou Yi was so surprised that he patted the mistress's round head. The mistress couldn't stop chewing at all. After a while, there was still business to be done, so Zhou Yi pulled off the mistress's head. I have plenty of this stuff at home, so I can take care of it from now on. I'm not bringing you something to eat today. Come with me first. Xiao San had no choice but to reluctantly follow Zhou Yi out of the berry forest. It's still about 20 minutes away from the berry grove to the snake nest. But this journey will definitely be more dangerous. If 2 or more Titanoboa were to attack them at the same time, the consequences would be disastrous. Zhou Yi decided to change his path. Not far from the berry forest is the river of the virgin forest. The riverside is the territory of Deinosuchus. No matter how domineering those giant pythons are, they probably wouldn't dare to cause trouble to Deinosuchus. Zhou Yi decided to be bold and go along the river to the snake nest, using the pressure of Deinosuchus to avoid these giant pythons. So Zhou Yi turned around and take the mistress and rushed to the river. The river is not far from the berry forest, and its location on the map is also relatively close to the snake nest. Zhou Yi and Xiao San were on their way to the river. We encountered another 7 or 8 giant pythons blocking our way. Fortunately, Zhou Yi used the terrain to deal with them and did not let the giant python form a siege. With the horn bow in his hand, he shot them all to death with one arrow. Whenever he encounters a giant python that is more than 12 meters long, Zhou Yi will immediately turn around and start walking again. After stumbling all the way, we finally arrived near the river. The view by the river suddenly became wider. There are no branches above the head, the moonlight shines straight down. Zhou Yi turned off the light above his head. Lights at night also attract wild animals. You can see the road with the help of the moonlight in the sky, so there is no need to turn on the hat lamp. The river next to it flows quietly. Zhou Yi didn't find the whereabouts of Crocodile, so he might be lurking in the river. Zhou Yi had no intention of disturbing it. As we walked along the river, the surrounding area became much quieter. The unsettling thread sound that the snake made when spitting out messages was no longer in my ears. The mistress is also very obedient and follows Zhou Yi quietly. After walking for a while, there was no danger. It seems that walking along the river is indeed the right strategy. After walking for about 10 minutes, the river ahead began to narrow. Zhou Yi became vigilant again. Deinosuchus would not be able to swim through such a narrow river. In other words, this place is no longer within the territory of Deinosuchus. At this moment, the leaves of the nearby trees shook rapidly. A beast with distinct black and white hair on all fours jumped out. The appearance of this beast was extremely familiar to Zhou Yi. Isn't this just a panda? But its appearance is obviously different from our national treasure. Its round head now has a big mouth. Its mouth was full of sharp fangs, and its eyes stared fiercely at Zhou Yi and Xiao San, who had intruded into its territory. A look ready to attack at any moment. This panda is not as cute as a national treasure at all. It is as vicious as a jackal. He will eat people in the next second. Zhou Yi understood. This is the first panda. The ancestor of the giant panda, but the difference is that the giant panda only eats bamboo, it eats meat. The panda let out a deep roar, and its body weighing nearly 1 ton rushed straight towards Zhou Yi. A ferocious mess. Zhou Yi didn't panic. He had a mistress beside him to help him. Even the saber-toothed tiger fell to his arrows, but he was confident of winning against this panda. Xiao San also let out a low roar and rushed towards She Panda excitedly. The two beasts charged at the same time and collided fiercely. Xiao San's weight was only half of She Panda's, and it was so funny that he was turned over by She Panda. At first, the panda had the advantage in strength, but it was even more difficult at this time. The two curved horns in front of Xiao Sanmei's eyes directly pierced its bare skin. Poked 2 bloody holes in it. She Panda let out an angry growl in pain, raised its sharp-toothed panda paw, and slapped Xiao San with one paw. The bear's claws are extremely sharp, like sharp dagger blades. He scratched hard on Xiao San's back, but only left a white mark. Not even a scratch on the skin. The skin of Triceratops is really thick. Xiao San got up after somersaulting on the ground. His fighting spirit was completely aroused, and he rushed forward ferociously, fighting with She Panda. Triceratops is a land tank. Although the primitive panda has sharp teeth and sharp claws. But I have never fought against a triceratops. There was nothing he could do to face the mistress. Instead, during the fight, he was stabbed with horns in many places and was bruised all over his body. At first, Panda had no choice but to defeat Xiao San, so he immediately chose a new attack target and rushed towards Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi has long had the idea of competing with these real beasts. His ability to lift over 600 pounds now is no joke. Take off the crescent sickle from behind. Zhou Yi faced him head-on without fear. Facing the beginning, the panda roared and jumped. Zhou Yi gathered all his strength, picked up the crescent sickle and smashed it forward hard. The swing force of nearly 1 ton hit She-Panda hard. At first the panda screamed in pain, but the solid paw continued to slap Zhou Yi. This claw with a force of nearly 1 ton is so powerful that it will kill or maim. Zhou Yi's reaction was not in vain, he immediately dodged. At the same time, he waved the crescent sickle again. With his backhand, he struck She-Panda with another sickle. This time Zhou Yi directly aimed at its head. The panda didn't react in time and received a heavy blow to the head on the spot. The huge body fell down on the spot, lying on the ground dizzy and vomiting blood. Zhou Yi originally thought that this blow might kill half of She-Panda's life. Unexpectedly, I still underestimated She-Panda's endurance. He can still stand up even though his body is supported by his limbs. Zhou Yi didn't give it this chance. Before the panda could stand completely, another sickle went straight to the head to greet him. The panda was once again staggered. Then he will do 7 or 8 consecutive last hits. Looking at She-Panda, who is gradually losing his strength, Zhou Yi suddenly had the urge to tame it. The road ahead is dangerous. If only there were more pandas as helpers. It must be a big help. Zhou Yi immediately started to use tame on the panting panda. But he somewhat underestimated the panda's unruly temper. No matter how Zhou Yi tried to tame him, he always failed. This panda is unusually stubborn. Still choose to wave his claws at him. Zhou Yi couldn't do anything with it either. All we can do is hammer it to death with a sickle. Zhou Yi wiped the sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. Unexpectedly, pandas are more difficult to deal with than saber-toothed tigers. It's actually right when you think about it. The panda belongs to the bear family, and its body is inherently stronger than that of the cat family, with a strong frame and rough skin and thick flesh. Tigers are cats and are better at sneak attacks. If it's a head-on fight, it doesn't count as a sneak attack on key points. The bear has the upper hand in terms of strength and size. The great thing about tigers is that they like to sneak up from behind. Suddenly bursting out from the dark corner. When he reacted, his head and neck had already separated. The panda's body exploded with 5 pieces of fine beast meat and 2 pieces of intermediate blood essence. Zhou Yi picked up the things and rested for a while. This is very close to the snake nest. But after leaving the territory of Deinosuchus, there must be more giant pythons ahead. Zhou Yi continued to choose to follow the river, all the way north. On the way, we encountered dozens of python attacks. They were all resisted by Zhou Yi and Xiao San. Zhou Yi leaned on the trunk of a towering ancient tree, breathing heavily in my chest. The dangers he had just experienced along the way left him almost no time to stop and rest. Whenever he had this thought, another huge snake head would poke out from nowhere and spit out snake messages at him dangerously. Zhou Yi finally found an opportunity at this time and climbed to an ancient tree dozens of meters high. Drink water to calm down the shock. The mistress was beside him, helping to look out for the wind. Different from Zhou Yi's tiredness, Xiao San is like Xiao Cheng, who cannot be beaten to death. Extremely energetic, after a fierce and dangerous battle along the way. It is still alive and well at this time. His eyes burned with fighting spirit. If Zhou Yi hadn't blocked it several times, it would have wanted to rush forward and fight the Titan Python. Zhou Yi was worried that it would be swallowed by the Titan Python. Then he caught it immediately. Zhou Yi didn't believe that a python could swallow an elephant before. But after seeing the terrifying giant python 10 stories high, Zhou Yi believed it. Even an adult giant elephant can swallow it, let alone an underage triceratops. Zhou Yi spread out the map and checked the route again. Very good. There are only about 200 meters left from the snake nest. As long as you're fast enough, you can rush all the way. If what Zheng Pengfei said is true, the snake nest is the safest place now. Zhou Yi felt that he had almost rested. So I continued to choose to move forward in a low profile. If you rush forward rashly, the risk is too great. Those who travel 100 miles are half 90. If you accidentally lose your life at this time, all your efforts will be in vain. Under the moonlight, Zhou Yi and his mistress continued to move forward cautiously and vigilantly. The front is still covered by layers of vines, and it feels like there is no end in sight. The footsteps fell, and the dead branches on the ground rustled. In the silent night, the sound seemed to be infinitely amplified, giving people an extreme sense of tension. I was afraid that some wild beast would follow the sound and come looking for me. In fact, this is mainly caused by psychological stress. Snakes' hearing is very weak. Even on a quiet night, they couldn't hear Zhou Yi walking by like this. Basically, there is no difference from a deaf person. But they have a temperature sensing system and can see more clearly at night than during the day. This is the scariest place for snakes. There is less than 100 meters left from the snake nest. It was quiet all around, no danger came. Zhou Yi calmed down and continued to move forward. 75 meters, still no danger. 50 meters away. At this distance, even if he sprints with his eyes closed, it only takes 3 or 4 seconds to reach the finish line. Zhou Yi couldn't help but relax slightly, but the next second his nerves suddenly became tense. Less than 10 meters ahead, a huge snake head poked over. The snake vomits and shrinks, its head is as big as a house. The huddled bodies are hidden in the darkness, and you can't even see them from the side. When Zhou Yi saw it, he couldn't help but take a breath, because he saw a clear scar at the corner of the right eye of the giant python. That was caused by an arrow wound. This giant python was the one he shot in the right eye with an arrow when he escaped from the snake nest. Its body is more than 6 stories tall when coiled up. This is a terrifying titanoboa. Zhou Yi couldn't help but want to retreat for a moment. But the snake nest was less than 50 meters away. At this time, the titanoboa had discovered him. The huge body gradually leaned over. Zhou Yi gritted his teeth and decided to rush over in one breath. After giving the mistress a signal, Zhou Yi pulled out the horn bow from his back, opened the bowstring. Take out the arrow and aim at its intact left eye. Without hesitation, shoot another arrow. Whoosh! At such a close distance, the giant python can't even hide away. The sharp arrow hits the target steadily. Hiss! Titanoboa King's huge body immediately spread out and struggled violently in pain. The huge snake body swung, and an ancient tree nearby was directly crushed by its body and fell down. Run now! Zhou Yi patted the mistress on the head and shouted. Then the two of them accelerated together. Rush directly from under this huge Titan Python King. Up close, this Titanoboa is even bigger. A feeling of oppression that blocks out the sky. It's like a scary monster from a disaster movie appears. Zhou Yi passed by the Titan Python King like a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, I rushed to the snake nest. But he still underestimated Titanoboa's speed. Even if it is blind, it can still accurately sense Zhou Yi's position through the snake messages it spits out. Titanoboa's huge body turned around. He was chasing Zhou Yi with great ferocity. Zhou Yi faintly noticed that something was wrong with the movement behind him. Looking back, he couldn't help but see a scene that he would never forget. The Titan Python King was tightly attached behind him and rushed forward. Its body is already big, and 50 meters is not a distance at all to it. It was ejected directly from the ground at an exaggerated speed. Zhou Yi only saw it opening its huge mouth so fiercely, as if to swallow the whole world. Zhou Yi could even smell the strong rancid smell spreading from its mouth as it usually swallowed too much beast meat. The smelly snake saliva flies in the air. The huge snake opened its mouth, and Zhou Yi knew what it meant to block out the sky and the sun. When life hangs on a thread, Zhou Yi became very calm instead. He is a soldier, and staying calm when encountering danger is the first priority. He has kept this habit. The Titan Python has a very large body. In addition, it bounced over and the body flew into the air. Zhou Yi can use his small skills to make great achievements. Turn around and run to the left. Titanoboa was so straight that he jumped forward. Zhou Yi made a temporary turn, and it didn't react at all. With just a hair's breadth, Zhou Yi escaped with his life from the giant mouth of the Titan Python King. Fortunately, Zhou Yi reacted quickly. If it had been a few tenths of a second slower. Zhou Yi has now entered the snake's belly. In a panic. Zhou Yi, on the other hand, was surprisingly calm. Pull out the bow from your back and hold it in your hand. The arrow is on the string and the chamber is full. Aiming at the snake, message spit out from the mouth of King Titanoboa. An arrow shot out. As long as the snake letter is shot through it, Titanoboa will not be able to sense his position. Zhou Yi's arrow was steady and accurate. After locking the target, the arrow shadow disappeared from sight. It was as if I could already hear the roar of Titanoboa in my ears. But his attention was entirely focused on the head of Titanoboa, and he did not notice its tail. The huge snake tail is like a huge whip. A terrible, whirring wind blew towards Zhou Yi. Once it hit, a giant tree dozens of meters high would break in half. By the time Zhou Yi reacted, it was already too late. The huge snake's tail had swept towards his face with the sound of wind. A black shadow suddenly jumped over like lightning. Before the snake's tail hit Zhou Yi, it hit him first. Bang! A muffled sound. The mistress was whipped out. He turned over a dozen somersaults in the sky before rolling down. At this time, the roar of pain from the Titanoboa gradually came. Zhou Yi was a little confused for a moment. It took a moment to react. It was the mistress who saved me just now. Zhou Yi quickly rushed towards Shaosan. See if the mistress is injured. Zhou Yi was still worried and found that the mistress had stood up. His eyes were full of anger, and he roared angrily. It seemed that he was very unhappy after being slapped and wanted to vent his anger. Zhou Yi saw that it was about to rush to seek revenge on the Titan Python. He quickly grabbed its round head. As long as you're not hurt, don't mess with it again. Zhou Yi stuffed 4 or 5 berries into Xiao San's mouth and calmed down his anger. Zhou Yi couldn't help but have a new understanding of the endurance of Triceratops. When the whip is pulled down, people will fly away, but they can still stand up vigorously. Xiao San, are you injured? Zhou Yi still asked. The mistress shook her head, then nodded again. Zhou Yi didn't understand its meaning either. He might have been injured. I guess I feel a little uncomfortable. Zhou Yi didn't have time to ask in detail. The terrifying monster not far away was still rolling the snake body. Zhou Yi touched the ground and unknowingly found that he had rushed into the canyon. The ground is full of traces of glue, and there seems to be resin left here. So Zhou Yi lit another fire on the ground without saying a word. Let the fire burn, so that when Titanoboa sees the fire, he will not dare to continue chasing after him. Zhou Yi took the mistress and ran in the opposite direction. The fire was blown by the night wind and quickly took off. It burned to the height of a wall in the blink of an eye. Zhou Yi ran a few hundred meters away and saw the fire starting to burn behind him. Then I gradually felt relieved. Titanoboa King was shot through snake letter by an arrow. If there were flames in front of him, he would not dare to pursue him again. Zhou Yi then began to look at the canyon. The canyon is about a few hundred meters high and 7 to 8 kilometers long. The narrowest canyon at the bottom is tens of meters wide. At this time he was standing on the side slope of the canyon. Because the cliff walls have been burned, the side slopes of the canyon are not very steep. With the help of the bright moonlight, there are dry and black marks everywhere on the ground. When you step on it, you can often step on something that looks like dead wood. I don't know if it's the remains of a burned snake's body or a real dead branch. Zhou Yi carefully identified the snake corpses and could still see them clearly. Those with curved shells and diamond-shaped snake heads are the remains of burned snakes. Not far away, Zhou Yi found a burnt snake corpse. He rummaged under the snake carcass, and sure enough he found 2 pieces of fine-grade snake meat and 1 medium-grade blood source essence. The snake meat is still in good condition. Because of the freshly dead beast, the beast meat dropped from the body will be kept fresh for 3 days and will not deteriorate. This discovery made Zhou Yi ecstatic. What Zheng Pengfei said is true, there are really snake meat and blood essence left here. This entire canyon is filled with snake corpses. How much snake meat and blood essence is left? Scent. It's really crazy now. Ha ha. Zhou Yi couldn't help but burst into laughter, filled with joy. The hard journey is not in vain, the harvest will come next. Less than 20 meters ahead. Another burned dry snake carcass. Zhou Yi easily picked up the snake meat X3, primary blood essence X5. Not far ahead, 2 snake corpses were next to each other. Zhou Yi took away the snake meat X8, the intermediate blood essence X2, and the primary blood essence X5. It's like picking up money. Who is not moved? Zhou Yi walked not far and found a snake cave. There were at least 20 giant pythons burned to death inside. Zhou Yi was excited for a while. I walked in and started to look through it. There is indeed a big harvest in the snake cave. Excellent snake meat X44, intermediate blood essence X18, primary blood essence X56. Zhou Yi even found excellent snake meat X2 in the snake cave. This excellent snake meat, he guessed, should have fallen from the Titanoboa. It was also the first time for Zhou Yi to see excellent beast meat. You can take it back and exchange it for something better. Whether you eat it or exchange it, it's definitely worth it. There were so many good things that Zhou Yi could no longer hold them in his hands, so he stuffed them all into his dimensional backpack. The group of people who came in earlier should also have made a lot of money from here. But the difference between Zhou Yi and them is that Zhou Yi has a dimensional backpack with a large capacity. That group of people didn't have dimensional backpacks, so they couldn't carry too many things in their hands. So Zhou Yi still got this big deal. Zhou Yi walked and searched all the way. There were too many good things in a canyon, and in the end he had to make a choice. All the primary blood essences were thrown away by him. Because the dimensional backpack only has 9 grids, each grid can hold 99 units. A maximum of 891 units can be installed. Zhou Yi only plans to pack 3 items: excellent snake meat, fine snake meat and intermediate blood source essence. The value of the primary blood essence is relatively low, so he can only temporarily abandon it. While Zhou Yi was picking up meat, he suddenly heard footsteps coming from near him. Zhou Yi suddenly became alert when he heard the footsteps. This was the sound of human footsteps, obviously not the sound of some wild animal. Zhou Yi sneered. It seems that he is not the only one risking his life to intercept the money tonight. Under the moonlight in the distance, several shadows approached quickly. 6 people in total. These people all carry weapons. The bright cold knife reflects the cold light under the moonlight. 2 of them even had helmets on their heads. One of them wore a breastplate on his upper body and an iron-like battle robe on his lower body. He looked fully armed and covered up tightly. What Zhou Yi didn't expect was that someone actually wore armor. Zhou Yi didn't know any of the 6 people on the other side. In fact, the entire 851 area. Zhou Yi doesn't know a few people. We have never met each other, and we only chat online. Just know the other person's name. But I don't know anything about her appearance, age, etc. Judging from the menacing looks of these 6 people, they probably didn't have good intentions. 6 people surrounded him, and no one on either side spoke first. Someone on the opposite side finally spoke first. The one who spoke was the one covered in armor. He stared at Zhou Yi and asked, "Who are you? How did you find this place?" Of course Zhou Yi would not tell them his name stupidly. Just said, "I found it by chance." When several people on the opposite side saw that Zhou Yi refused to speak, it was the man in armor who spoke first, and sneered when he opened his mouth. "You are not from the Fire Alliance, how come you found this place by chance?" "If you are from the Alliance, according to the rules, everything here must be handed over." Zhou Yi asked, "Are you from the Fire Alliance?" The armored man said, "Stop talking nonsense, hand over your things. Then you can get out." Zhou Yi knew roughly that these people should be members of the Fire Alliance. Hearing the other party's threat, Zhou Yi did not panic. What he was wondering in his heart was that he had exhausted all his strength and risked his injuries before venturing into the canyon. How did these people pass through such a dangerous virgin forest and still enter here unscathed? "How did you get in? Hand over the things and I'll tell you." The man in armor lost his patience and gestured to a few people around him. Zhou Yi understood the gesture and sneered in his heart, pretending not to know on the surface. The armored man continued, "Our Fire Alliance has been dealing with pythons in the primeval forest for several days. We have already understood the terrain nearby. We know exactly where there are no pythons, so we took a shortcut here." Zhou Yi said again, "This whole canyon is full of good things. No matter how powerful your Fire Alliance is, you can't take them away, right? Don't be greedy." When the armored man heard this, he was willing to talk more. The python was stopped by our Fire Alliance, and all the harvest should be enjoyed by our Fire Alliance. We made such a big sacrifice to protect Area 851. You should thank us. Without our protection, you would have died long ago. Zhou Yi understood. This person was actually saying this not only to him, but also to the other 5 people. The words are high-sounding. Just to raise the status of the Fire Alliance infinitely. Let everyone feel that this is a righteous army. Zhou Yi has already guessed the identity of this armored man, Li Yan. Only he would say such a thing, and the other 5 members of the Fire Alliance also agreed with it. Zhou Yi suddenly sneered a few times. When Li Yan said these words, he thought Zhou Yi would agree, but he didn't expect him to laugh. Why are you laughing? Li Yan asked. Zhou Yi, when it comes to your contribution to preventing the Python disaster, your Fire Alliance is not worthy of me. Li Yan thought this man was crazy and made a gesture. Unexpectedly, Zhou Yi had already taken the initiative and took the bow to knock an arrow. An arrow shot directly through the chest of one of them. The man didn't react at all. Before Li Yan finished his gesture, Zhou Yi's arrow came over. The death is unclear. Only then did Li Yan's take action order come down. I found that someone on my side had already hung up. The other 4 people were stunned for a moment, and then they realized that this kid seemed to have guessed it a long time ago and took action before them. Li Yan was even more angry. The 5 people he brought today were all trustworthy subordinates. He was very unwilling to lose a general when he came up. What made him even more angry was what happened later. I saw Zhou Yi also made a gesture. Then I heard a low roar coming from nearby. Then a strong young Triceratops charged towards them. Everyone in the Fire Alliance was surprised when they saw a Triceratops appear. The mistress ignored him and rushed over, using the horns on his head to knock someone away. No one realized, how could the herbivorous Triceratops become so ferocious? Once Xiao San charges, Zhou Yi doesn't dare to block him. It is estimated that the person who was sent off has been offline. 6 people were instantly reduced by 2. The remaining 3 people directly drew their weapons and killed Zhou Yi. Li Yan looked at this scene with cold eyes and clenched fists. Tonight, Zhou Yi must die. The 3 people who rushed over moved quickly, holding long knives in their hands, and their posture was to kill Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi didn't panic, took out the crescent sickle. Sweep horizontally to open and close. All 3 people were forced to retreat. One of them was holding a long-handled weapon. He took the initiative to stop Zhou Yi's powerful and heavy blow. The force of Zhou Yi's sweep was close to 1 ton, and this person was actually able to catch it. It can be seen that he must have eaten the meat of wild beasts, and he must have eaten it as often as himself. Zhou Yi's eyes became more serious. The other 2 people came from the side with knives to outflank and kill him. But at this time, Xiaosan quickly responded with a counterattack. One of them with a long knife didn't react. Offline like the last unlucky guy. Li Yan shouted angrily, "They're a team." Only then did the rest of the people react. It turns out that this Triceratops and Zhou Yi are actually in the same group. It's a pity that they paid the price of 3 people's death to understand this matter. The remaining 2 people, one holding a short sword and the other holding a long-handled guandao, danced like tigers in the wind. The guy holding a short knife confronted the mistress. This person's movements are very flexible and he knows not to fight head-on with the mistress. So he drew the bow and arrow from his back, kept the distance, and shot out an arrow. Let him shoot arrows as he pleases, the mistress only cares about the tank sprinting. The man suddenly shouted in surprise. No, this Triceratops skin is too thick and it can't shoot at all. The mistress is wearing a suit of armor and running towards him. He was completely helpless. Suddenly I broke into a cold sweat. The man with the long sword saw Xiaosan rushing up. Pull out a tube of injection from your cuff. Hit yourself on the waist. Push a tube of medicine in and it will take effect immediately. I couldn't run as fast as Xiaosan before, but now I can run as fast as Xiaosan. After taking the potion, draw the bowstring again. This arrow even shook the bowstring. The power is much greater than the previous arrow. After shooting Xiao San in the head, he was bounced off by the skull bone. Although Xiao San was not injured on the surface, it could be heard from its angry growl that it was clearly in pain. Because of this arrow, Xiao San was angered. The four legs work together, and the body rises and falls like a cat. The speed is much faster than before, rushing towards him like crazy. This man didn't expect that the arrow he shot would anger the Triceratops, and he could only turn around and run for his life. On the other side, Zhou Yi also met his opponent. This person who wields the guando seems to be an expert, and he is very good at fighting. He is a soldier. I used to learn some free fighting and armed combat in the army. Can fight much better than ordinary people. But meeting this person at this time can be regarded as meeting an opponent. And his weapons are sophisticated weapons. Zhou Yi suffered a lot with the crescent scythe. This person has also been eating wild animal meat for a long time. Zhou Yi's most confident power has no advantage in front of this man. But Zhou Yi also hit a bow and arrow. With a feint, he distanced himself from this person. Zhou Yi immediately took out 3 arrows and placed them on the bow like lightning. Whoosh whoosh, just 3 consecutive shots fired at him. The other party also didn't expect that Zhou Yi would take out a bow in the blink of an eye. Seeing 3 arrows flying towards me, it's too late to dodge anymore. The next second, something happened that shocked Zhou Yi. I saw the other party's figure suddenly flashed. It was like a black phantom suddenly teleported 5 meters to the side, avoiding the arrow. Zhou Yi made sure that he was not dazzled just now. This person literally teleported 5 meters in front of him. Special occupation. Zhou Yi vaguely understood. He is an animal tamer. Besides him, others also have special professions. For example, the person in front of me has mastered a certain skill that others do not know. This teleportation move can play a great role in helping him hunt wild beasts or escape for his life. After this opponent teleported, his movements seemed to become very difficult. He lay on the ground and gasped violently. It seems that it is not used casually, as it can cause some side effects to the body. Zhou Yi did not miss the opportunity. Gave him 3 more arrows. This time the opponent rolled on the spot. He dodged 2 of the arrows and was hit in the leg by 1. Zhou Yi immediately rushed forward and struck a blow. Kill this opponent with 1 blow. Li Yan watched the whole process from the side without the slightest intention to participate. Seeing the shadow dead, Li Yan cursed, "Trash." Then he took out a scroll to return to the city, sending a harsh word to Zhou Yi. Going against my fire alliance will never end well. Then he stepped into the circle of light and disappeared. Listening to Li Yan's threat, Zhou Yi didn't take it seriously at all. Let him give up the entire canyon's meat and blood essence to the fire alliance. 3 words. Impossible. In Zhou Yi's eyes, Li Yan was not as threatening as the one who could teleport just now. This kind of person who has mastered special skills is the one he needs to be wary of. There is only one left in the Fire Alliance. He was also thrown to the ground by the mistress. Zhou Yi stopped the frantic mistress and went up to question him. Ask this person to tell you the route to safely enter the snake nest from outside the virgin forest. Then decisively send him on his way. Since they are already identified as enemies, there is nothing to be merciful about. The soul of the iron-blooded soldier has long been injected into Zhou Yi's soul. Zhou Yi then searched their backpacks. Each of these 5 people came carrying a sack. Apparently he was planning to come here and take away all the meat and blood essence scattered in the canyon. Unfortunately, he met Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi took away all their sacks. Continued to pick up snake meat and blood essence in the canyon. He estimated that Li Yan would never give up and would definitely come over tonight. Maybe they are already raising manpower. Now that the bridge has been tied, let's tie it. Zhou Yi doesn't panic at all about Li Yan, he panics about people with special skills. Such people are often caught off guard and cannot use common sense to guess. For example, Zhou Yi is an animal trainer. As long as he doesn't tell anyone, no one will know about his relationship with Xiao San. You can catch others off guard. Zhou Yi speeded up the search. The canyon is too big. The primary blood source essence was directly abandoned by him. The target is only the intermediate blood essence and excellent snake meat. Then there's the premium grade snake meat. Zhou Yi's search targets mainly focused on dozens of caves on the cliff. Titanoboa usually likes to dig holes. The probability of finding excellent snake meat in the cave is higher. Zhou Yi searched all the way and found a lot of excellent snake meat. These were all left behind by the burnt Titanoboa. In the end, Zhou Yi couldn't even fit it into his dimensional backpack, so he packed it in those hemp bags. Pieces of excellent grade snake meat, fine grade snake meat, and intermediate blood source essence were all put into sacks. Then he tied the sack tightly and tied it to Shaoxin's back. Searching through cave after cave. This trip was really profitable. In one of the huge caves with a height of about 8 meters and a depth of nearly 100 meters, Zhou Yi discovered another unexpected gain. Deep in the snake cave, a baby snake with a body length of only about 5 meters is curled up and nestled in the ruins. The scales on its body are also dark black, with diamond-shaped patterns, the same as those on Titanoboa. Next to it, lay a body of Titanoboa that was almost burned to charcoal. This baby snake should be a juvenile Titanoboa. At this time, it seemed to have noticed someone approaching and was looking around. The body was tilted back, assuming a tense alert posture. Snake messages kept coming out of his mouth. Since a baby Titanoboa snake was found here, Zhou Yi had no intention of letting it go. Speaking of which, he is too pitiful. As an animal trainer, the only animals to be trained are Shaoxin and mountain pheasant. It feels embarrassing to say this. It's time to add more members to your taming family. Zhou Yi immediately used the skill Tame on the young snake. This baby snake is very timid and not very aggressive. After Zhou Yi used taming on it, it actually accepted it obediently. Zhou Yi was surprised to find. Activate, tame, yourself. It was successful in just one try. Zhou Yi immediately opened the system's animal trainer column and found that his animal trainer had indeed added another member. Titaboa, infancy, loyalty, 55, current status, juvenile, timid. This baby snake is very timid. Although its body length is also 5 meters, compared with the adult Titanoboa, it is. It's really just a baby. Zhou Yi saw that it was covered in dark snake skin, so he simply named it Xiao He. Zhou Yi asked Xiao He to try to climb on his arm. Xiao He is very timid and has to spit out snake letters. Seems a little shy again. After hesitating for several seconds, he still did it. Unexpectedly, the adult Titanoboa is so ferocious, and the young Xiao He is so timid and shy. After Zhou Yi teased it a little, he took it out of the cave. Zhou Yi then continued to search in the canyon for 2 hours. Xiao San was carrying 7 or 8 sacks on his back, and the load was estimated to be at least close to 1 ton. But there is still a lot of snake meat on the ground that has not been picked up. There are just too many things. There are at least hundreds of thousands of snakes burned to death here. No matter how talented Zhou Yi is, he can't pick it all up. But he didn't let go of any of the excellent snake meat left behind by Titanoboa. At this time, it was all in his dimensional backpack and the sack on the mistress. The rest are fine-grade snake meat and most of the primary blood essence. There are hundreds of thousands of snakes, and there are quite a lot of these fine-grade snake meat and blood essences left. We must not take advantage of everyone in the Tinder Alliance. Zhou Yi thought of a way and put all the snake meat and blood essence on the ground in sacks. Then stuff all the sacks into a relatively hidden cave and bury them with soil. This is a huge workload, and Zhou Yi simply has no time to complete it alone. After Zhou Yi thought about it, first opened the friends list. Contacted Zheng Pengfei. It's now around 12 o'clock in the evening, and Zheng Pengfei hasn't rested yet. Just received a message from Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi, Pengfei, are you asleep? Zheng Pengfei. Not yet, my benefactor, have you arrived at the snake nest safely? Zhou Yi. Well, I'm in the canyon now. There are good things here. I'm short of manpower. Come over and help me move some things. When Zheng Pengfei heard this, he was immediately excited and elated. It seems that Zhou Yi definitely got a big deal in the canyon. Zheng Pengfei. Okay, I'll come over now. Zhou Yi. Be careful when you come here. I found a safe route that leads directly from the outskirts of the virgin forest to the snake nest. You can walk along this road, but be careful of the people from the Fire Alliance. They plan to monopolize this place. Li Yan may not let anyone go, so be careful on the road. When Zheng Pengfei heard this, he immediately said, Okay, I guessed that this fool had no good intentions, and he really wanted to take advantage of it all for himself. My benefactor, don't worry, I know it. Zhou Yi nodded. Well, besides, the python disaster has been brought under control, and there is no need for the python killing team to exist for them. Do you understand what I mean? Zhang Pengfei was surprised, nodded and said, I see. Then Zhou Yi hung up the chat. What Zhou Yi is worried about now is that Zhang Pengfei will bump into Li Yan on the way here, which makes it difficult to explain. I waited anxiously for about 20 minutes. The situation that worried Zhou Yi did not appear. At the entrance to the other side of the canyon, Zhou Yi successfully met Zhang Pengfei. Zhang Pengfei looked about the same age as Zhou Yi. He was not tall but had a strong body. Looks a little silly. His eyes are very clear. He didn't come alone. Next to Zhang Pengfei, there was a little girl in sportswear who looked like a high school student. He lowered his head slightly and looked at Zhou Yi with slightly averted eyes. Seems a little shy. This must be light rain, right? Zhou Yi said hello generously. Xiao Yu was just like what he usually saw in photos, he was very peaceful. This is my sister. You said you needed help, so I brought her here. I need to help you as much as possible. Zhang Pengfei said cheerfully, and then patted Xiao Yu's shoulder. Xiao Yu, please talk to your savior. At Zhang Pengfei's request, Xiao Yu also spoke. Zhou, brother Zhou, thank you very much for taking care of my brother. The sound was not loud, just a little louder than the sound of mosquitoes. Zhou Yi could just hear it. After finishing speaking, Xiao Yu blushed slightly and lowered her head, unable to see her toes. Zhou Yi, you're welcome, aren't I asking for your help now? These two brothers and sisters made Zhou Yi feel very honest, and Zhou Yi felt at ease when dealing with them. Time was tight, so Zhou Yi did not chat much with Zhang Pengfei and Xiao Yu. Tell them your plans directly. Now the people from the Fire Alliance may come back at any time. What they have to do is move all the snake meat and blood essence here into the cave and bury them with soil. Don't let people from the Fire Alliance get it. Zhang Pengfei and Xiao Yu both know how much snake meat is in the entire canyon. What a fortune this must be. Zhou Yi didn't ask them for help, he clearly wanted to make a fortune with them. Zhang Pengfei said nothing, and the three of them immediately started working. Zhou Yi gave Xiaosan an order to go to the safe passage for a lookout. Once someone approaches, come back and report to yourself immediately. The mistress took off the sack on her back and ran to watch the wind. Zhang Pengfei was injured on his leg, but at this time, he didn't care so much. Even if I am injured, I have to finish moving everything in this canyon. Xiao Yu is a girl, and her efficiency in doing this kind of physical work is generally not as good as that of a boy. Surprisingly, it was not hard at all for Xiao Yu to carry those sacks filled with snake meat. The movements are also very easy and the efficiency is not slow at all. She also ate dinosaur meat with Zhang Pengfei. Strength increased. There is no ambiguity in the work. Zhang Pengfei has been asking Xiao Yu to help Zhou Yi, intentionally or unintentionally. When Zhou Yi sat down to rest, he asked Xiao Yu to help Zhou Yi squeeze his shoulders. Looking at Xiao Yu who was in his prime, he came closer with a faint blush on his face. Zhou Yi wanted to refuse. But Xiao Yu was thin-skinned and refused because she was afraid of hurting others' self-esteem. So Zhou Yi simply agreed. Feeling Xiao Yu's soft fingers, massaging the sore muscles on the shoulders and neck, one by one. I felt relaxed all over my body. Thank you, Xiao Yu. Zhou Yi said, it's okay, brother Zhou, it should be okay. Xiao Yu lowered her head, squeezed Zhou Yi's shoulders and sat quietly next to him. The three of them worked all night long. Most of the fine-grade snake meat and blood essence in the canyon were put into sacks. Transport them together to a hidden cave and bury them with soil. The results of this harvest are amazing. All three of them felt unreal. Even Zhou Yi was a little dizzy. Zhou Yi told the brother and sister. The Fire Alliance and I have completely broken up. The things in the canyon are gone. They will definitely suspect me. You will find an opportunity later to secretly move these things away during the chaos. You must not be discovered by the Fire Alliance. Zhang Pengfei and Xiao Yu couldn't help but start to worry about Zhou Yi's safety. Zhou Yi smiled faintly. Don't worry about me. They can't even find where I live. Besides, I won't be afraid of them. Zhang Pengfei said. Brother Zhou, if they dare to attack you, I will kill Li Yan directly. Zhou Yi told him not to worry yet and to do as he said. It was almost dawn, and Zhou Yi estimated that Li Yan would immediately enter the canyon to check the situation as soon as it got light. They can't stay any longer. Must evacuate immediately. Then the three people immediately left the canyon along the safe passage. Zhou Yi doesn't care about wasting the scroll to return to the city. I tore one piece directly. With Shaosun and Xiaohei. There was also a lot of loot returned to Xia Cave. After returning to Xia Cave, Zhou Yi was exhausted and paralyzed. After working all night and going through countless battles, he rarely stopped to rest along the way. Now when I lie down, I feel pain everywhere in my body. Now he doesn't want to worry about anything, he just wants to take a nap to refresh himself. Zhou Yi slept deeply this time. When he woke up again, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't eaten anything all day and I'm already hungry. Zhou Yi found that the energetic mistress was lying on the ground sleeping soundly. It turns out that you are also tired sometimes. When Xiaohei first arrived in this new place, he felt a little uncomfortable. He put his body around the handle of the stone axe that Zhou Yi had not used much since he bought it, and looked around. Zhou Yi can check the status of the tamed beast from the taming status column. Tata Python current status, hungry. Zhou Yi happened to be hungry himself, so he got up immediately and ate first. Zhou Yi took out a piece of excellent snake meat directly from his dimensional backpack. Put it in the pot and start cooking. He took 2 eggs from under the pheasant's butt and touched them with both hands. Put on the pan and fry. Sprinkle some sesame seeds and salt. Pick a berry, eggs, berries and slices of boiled meat. Had breakfast and lunch together. This time Zhou Yi ate a whole piece of meat. Usually he could only eat half a piece, he was really hungry. Seeing Xiaohei who was so hungry that he was almost drooling. Zhou Yi also threw a piece of meat to it. Xiaohei looked at the meat on the ground and cautiously poked his head over. After sniffing it, it seems that I am not used to eating like this. Usually, its mother's education to it is that to eat, it must swallow the living thing whole. Xiaohei eats like this for the first time, but it still mustered up the courage to swallow the meat. After he was full, Xiaohei opened his eyes slightly and seemed to be still thinking about it. It seems to be pretty good. Then he curled up on the stone axe, closed his eyes and went to sleep. What Zhou Yi ate this time was not high-quality beast meat. It's excellent snake meat. After eating, Zhou Yi couldn't feel any significant improvement in his body. Maybe it's because the effect hasn't been shown yet. I'll take a physical fitness test later. Look at the growth that excellent snake meat brings to the body. After eating enough, Zhou Yi had time to take stock of the harvest. The dimensional backpack is already filled to the brim. In addition to the dimensional backpack, he also kidnapped 7 or 8 large sacks. At this time, the bulging inside was filled with snake meat. Zhou Yi took inventory of things. I couldn't help grinning. Good guy, I've gained a lot this time. Excellent grade snake meat X 873. Intermediate blood essence X 2053. Excellent grade snake meat X 3522. This is just what he brought back. There are 10 times more buried in the cave than this. It is also difficult for Zhou Yi to measure this wealth. In short, there is no need to worry about Shaosun's cultivation potion. You don't have to worry about the meat in your dimensional backpack going bad. But it will be in a sack. Now we have to find a way to get rid of all the high-grade snake meat quickly. The first thing Zhou Yi thought of was Zhao Qingkong. Metal sheets can be used anywhere. When I think of Li Yan's dazzling full-face armor, Zhou Yi felt that something was missing from him. Zhou Yi opened the friend list and found Zhao Qingkong directly. How to sell excellent grade metal sheets. Zhao Qingkong. Long time no see. I thought you were dead. Zhou Yi, isn't it just that I haven't come to visit you for a while? As for talking like this. After Zhou Yigang finished speaking, he realized that this sentence might be a bit ambiguous and immediately added. Visit your store. Zhao Qingkong. Expression with eye roll. Zhao Qingkong. You want an excellent metal piece. If you exchange it for berries, I will be at a huge disadvantage. Zhou Yi. No berries. Zhao Qingkong. Then what are you using? Fish and shrimps in the sea, haha. Zhao Qingkong's tone was a bit teasing. It seemed that she also knew that she was selling seafood on the World Channel. Zhou Yi didn't feel anything ashamed. There is no shame in selling seafood. Zhou Yi. No, I'll trade it with you for high-quality meat. Zhao Qingkong. Premium grade fresh meat. How much do you have? This time Zhou Yi was confident. How much do you want? It means how much I want, how much I have. Zhao Qingkong. Hey, your tone is not small. Zhao Qingkong. Let me do the math. If I exchange it for high quality meat, I can give it to you at a ratio of 100 units to 1. When Zhou Yi heard that it was 100 to 1, he felt that the price was a bit expensive. The value of high quality meat is not low. He felt that it was not worthwhile to exchange 100 units of fine grade meat for one piece of fine grade metal. Zhao Qingkong. What, do you think it's expensive? Zhou Yi. It's a bit. Zhao Qingkong spent a lot of time explaining the current market situation to Zhou Yi. Now more than 10 days have passed since the start, and the number of channels in the world has dropped sharply from 8 billion to 6 billion. The players who have survived until now all have a certain ability to survive. Nowadays, we basically have methods or rely on teams to hunt down some small beasts. Therefore, high-quality beast meat is no longer as scarce as it was in the past, and its value has naturally declined. But there is still a certain transaction value. Excellent grade metal sheets are different. They can be used to make excellent grade weapons. It can even be used to upgrade the third level base. The transaction value far exceeds that of fine grade beast meat. After hearing what Zhao Qingkong said, Zhou Yi understood more or less. To put it bluntly, the transaction values of the two items are seriously unequal. Zhao Qingkong. Forget it, you are also a regular customer here. How about I give you a preferential price at a ratio of 70 to 1? Zhao Qingkong. I sold it at the cost price, and I lost all my capital. Alas. Haha, the mouth of a businessman is a liar. If you, a shrewd little fool like you, lose all your money, you will really be in trouble. Zhou Yi thought to himself. However, Zhou Yi thinks the price is appropriate. If someone exchanges high-quality wood with himself for excellent grade snake meat. I refused without even thinking about it. He is exchanging items of a lower level for items of a higher level. Zhao Qingkong was willing to sell and already took good care of him. As for Zhao Qingkong exchanging the meat, she has her own business channels to deal with it. There is no need for Zhou Yi to worry. So, Zhou Yi used 3,522 units of fine-grade snake meat. I got 50 pieces of excellent metal pieces from Zhao Qingkong. Zhou Yi plans to use these metal sheets. Build yourself an excellent weapon first. Fighting against people from the Fire Alliance. Zhou Yi knew the importance of a good weapon. His ordinary level crescent scythe was suppressed by others' sophisticated level Guan Dao. Moreover, it would take more than a dozen hits to kill a panda on the head with a crescent sickle. A sophisticated weapon is not needed at all. Zhou Yi opened the world channel and directly searched for excellent weapons. There are many types, most of which are made of scrolls. Mainly cold weapons, there are also a small number of hot weapons. For example, double-barreled shotgun, Mauser, etc. But the gun is very expensive to make. And if you buy a gun, you have to buy bullets. Gunpowder ore is very rare in the market now. Even if you buy a gun, you can't buy bullets. Therefore, these thermal weapon making scrolls are currently in the inapplicable category. Zhou Yi even discovered the three-edged military thorn. He had used the three-edged military thorn in the army before. There are 3 blood grooves engraved on the surface. After stabbing the target, it can bleed quickly. Basically, if stabbed in the body, you will die. Is a good choice. For those beasts with rough skin and thick flesh, if a knife can penetrate the surface flesh, the effect is definitely much better than other cold weapons. But shortness is a disadvantage. Zhou Yi needs length. The beasts facing him have obvious size advantages. Only a weapon of 2 to 3 meters in length can give him a sufficient sense of security. Zhou Yi went back and forth to choose, and finally selected Macedonian spear-making scroll. This kind of spear is shorter than the Macedonian spear in the history of the earth, with a length of about 2 meters too. There is a fork at the tip of the spear, and an extra curved blade. More like a halberd, the length of the blade tip exceeds 70 centimeters. Zhou Yi was used to using the crescent scythe, and he was even more accustomed to using this weapon with a large cutting area. Once swung, the killing area is large enough. The seller of this weapon-making scroll is not as easy to talk to as Zhao Qingkong. It must be exchanged for something of the same excellent level. Zhou Yi only has 2 excellent things in his hands, excellent soil and excellent snake meat. In the end, He took out 3 units of excellent snake meat in exchange for this scroll. Zhou Yi discovered that the Macedonian spear actually needs to be crafted with mammoth tusk. No more wood needed. It is conceivable that this weapon must be very heavy in the hand. In the end, Zhou Yi spent more than a dozen pieces of excellent snake meat to gather all the materials. Create a Macedonian spear. Just as Zhou Yi imagined. This weapon is slightly heavier than the crescent scythe. But it's just right in Zhou Yi's hand. Zhou Yi's horizontal lifting strength now exceeds 700 kilograms, and he can swing the spear effortlessly. The handle of the gun has a stone-like frosted feel when held in the hand. The gun blade is not pure metal, it is also embedded with high-hardness calcium such as mammoth ivory. Increased hardness. Zhou Yi tried waving twice. When the spear cuts through the air, it will make a terrible, woo-woo, sound. Zhou Yi was very satisfied. If he were allowed to hold the Macedonian spear and have a head-on confrontation with the Fire Alliance members he encountered yesterday. This time he was absolutely confident that he would be picked alive with a spear. Zhou Yi then continued to flip through the world channel, looking for anything else that might be helpful to him at the moment. It turns out that there are indeed people selling armor. There are helmets, breastplates, gauntlets and other parts of the body. But the price of excellent armor is very high. Even if you sell all the snake meat in a canyon, you still won't be able to assemble a set of excellent armor. Zhou Yi plans to wait until the price of armor drops before considering it. It's a seller's market now. Whoever buys it is the wrong person. Zhou Yi decided to take a step back and do the next best thing and buy first. Exquisite helmet making scroll. Exquisite breastplate making scroll. The head and chest are the vital parts of the human body, and Zhou Yi believes that it is very necessary to protect these 2 parts. So buy the helmet and breastplate first. Armor crafting scrolls are relatively rare and much more expensive than weapons. Zhou Yi bought these 2 things and gathered the materials, spending a total of X50 excellent snake meat. Among the rest, Zhou Yi also discovered the City Return Scroll excellent level. After use, it can be teleported back to the base, and there is no limit to the number of times it can be used in a day. Good thing, Zhou Yi jumps in directly. Base environment mimicry shield. After use, the appearance of the base can be made consistent with the surrounding environment. The restriction will only be lifted when it is close to 5 meters around the base. When Zhou Yi discovered this thing, he was completely surprised. With this thing, others can no longer find where his base is. Although the price is a bit expensive, Zhou Yi gritted his teeth. Still in. Spiker grenade causes a small-scale explosion. The effective killing radius of the stabbing bullet is 10 meters. This is good stuff. Zhou Yi found that he lacked a trump card when encountering enemies. For example, someone else has hidden teleportation, which is their trump card. Zhou Yi felt that this grenade was very necessary. This grenade is his trump card. Zhou Yi immediately contacted the person who sold shrapnel grenade. I just spent 3 pieces of excellent metal pieces to buy a stab grenade. Zhou Yi wouldn't feel bad no matter how much money he spent on life-saving things. Zhou Yi asked the seller if there was any inventory left. The seller told him very honestly that he found only 1 grenade in the supply box by luck. Zhou Yi could only regret having one first. If possible, he really wanted to buy a few more. Once we get into hands with this thing, who would think of it? Throw it out and the opponent will die without knowing how. Finally, Zhou Yi found Zhao Qingkong and collected a batch of high-quality metal sheets. Replenished his arrow inventory. This wave of transactions is over. There are more than 400 units of excellent snake meat left in Zhou Yi Siyuan's backpack. He kept it to himself for now. Zhou Yi then took out dozens of berry tree seedlings from his backpack and transplanted them to the vegetable garden. After watching all the berry tree seedlings successfully planted, pour water and sprinkle fertilizer on it, waiting for the berry trees to bear fruit. In the next period of time, Zhou Yi had no worries about food and drink. And he holds huge amounts of money. The base is also well hidden. Even if Li Yan turned the entire island upside down, he would never be able to find him. Zhou Yi can just sit back and wait. Spend time with him slowly. He just needs to train his mistress well and wait patiently for a while. After the mistress enters adulthood, an adult triceratops, just ask Li Yan if he can stop it. No matter what kind of fire alliance it is, just crush it all the way. Only then did Zhou Yi take the time to take a look at the current trends on the regional channel. If his guess is good, the Tinder Alliance will definitely be furious this time. Sure enough, in the regional channel, many people from the Fire Alliance were denouncing one thing, claiming that someone stole the loot that originally belonged to the Fire Alliance. These people are crazy about the rhythm on the regional channel. All the credit for eradicating the Python disaster should be attributed to the Python killing team of the Fire Alliance. However, after the Fire Alliance made huge sacrifices, what they got in exchange was for their loot to be stolen. It makes the entire alliance feel very sad. There are many people in the regional channel who don't know the truth. When they see someone dare to steal something belonging to the Python killing team, suddenly he was filled with indignation. I vow to find this person and make him pay a heavy price. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.